Hello, and welcome to episode 212 of Flix and the Six, a definitely weekly podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me forever and always, the man, the myth, the trash panda, Alessandro BiolsiPanel. Say hello, Al.
Meal fit for a king. Meal fit for a king. Meal fit for a king.
Also joining us for the first time, he's new to the show, but an honorary Spin June already, Nelson Singh. Say hello, Nelson.
Hello, hello.
Oh, he's echoing again.
Is that echoing?
On this week's episode, we've got the Killers of the Flower Moon?
Plural.
Killers of the Flower Moon. There's more than one. We've got the end of Succession, Jedi Survivor, and other consumption along the way, all before diving into our flick of the week, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
We are drinking Treehouse Cranberry Tart. Obviously, this has become one of our favorites as well.
The first beer you chose.
Yeah, this is definitely the first one I chose tonight. And that's okay, because it's a professional outfit. It's the Cranberry Tart. It's a tart wheat ale brewed with orange puree and heirloom house cranberries from Stonebridge Farm in Acushnet, Massachusetts. Pouring a brilliant pink color in the glass, it carries delicious notes of tart cranberry, sweet orange marmalade, and tangy cranberry lemonade.
Oh my goodness, you're saying all the right words, except for pink. It's not pink, but go on.
It's like rosé colored.
I'm colorblind, kid.
It is soft, effervescent, and easy to drink, pairing beautifully with your favorite foods of the holiday season. Enjoy.
When is this from?
We haven't recorded like half of the last year, man. It's not
yeah, but is it the past holiday season or the one before that?
Helpfully, it doesn't say. It's a tart wheat ale. It's 1 pint, which we love. It is 5% alcohol by volume. It was brewed in Charlton, Massachusetts.
Excellent. Always a show favorite, this brewery. I'm looking forward to trying this one. Can art, beautiful, as always.
Yes.
Very matte. Love the
fruits.
cranberries, love the oranges. All things that I want in this beer. So
on the bottom of the can, definitely don't look for the date because it's definitely not there. But it does say tart.
It's oh wait, so it's not so bad, right?
I just want to go on the record. I bought this fresh.
Right? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that 11/22?
No, it's the year 22,755 is
yeah. Yeah.
January 11th of 20,000 years from now.
Sure. Perfect. All right, let's give it a go. Cheers. I never had a future beer.
Tart.
Yeah. That's nice. That's refreshing.
Yeah, I'm gonna say actually, I don't think this is really a holiday type of beer. This is like perfect for now. This is something I would want refreshingly on a nice spring day.
I would have to agree with that. It doesn't taste like beer at all to me.
No, it tastes like some sort of cranberry juice cocktail mixed with like champagne.
Yeah, so I was getting a champagne note out of it.
Have you ever had like champagne or prosecco with Chambord?
Yes, French 75. Is that a thing? Is that drink?
That it's a related drink, but not the same drink.
Okay.
So French 75 has like liquor in it.
Yeah, that's the one I had.
No, sometimes as an alternative to a mimosa or a Bellini, you'll get. You pour, because the Chambord is a little bit syrupy, you pour that in to like coat the glass, and then you pour ice cold Prosecco or champagne on top, and it gives it a nice little fruity character to
sounds good.
The actual sparkling wine. So it's kind of like that, but instead
I'm all
of
about that raspberry flavor.
Yeah. Instead of raspberry, cranberry juice cocktail.
Here's a question: What's the deal with, like, seriously, blue raspberry? What's that about? I mean, as a kid, always enjoyed the blue raspberry stuff, but never questioned it until recently when it came up and I saw an ice pop that said blue raspberry. And it's like, wait, but that's not a thing, though. So what is this?
I mean, blue lobsters
how
are a
did
thing,
we get
so.
here? What?
I said blue lobsters are a thing. You never had one?
Do they taste like blue raspberries? That'd be alarming.
They're just lobsters that are fed exclusively on a blue raspberry diet.
But seriously, blue raspberries?
I mean, no, they're not real.
Yeah, what is that? Any?
It's just
hey,
it's
okay,
just raspberry.
hey, first
flavor.
tangent of the day. Let's find out where that came from because I'm real curious.
I'm assuming that there was just some candy or drink company like 70 years ago that were like, all of our things are just red, so let's give you a new flavor but blue.
I love blue flavor. I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole while we talk a little bit further. So I'm gonna let you guys lead with this. But where do we stand vis-a-vis the Thuckles on this? I don't know how to rate this one because it doesn't. I feel like it can't be compared against other beers because it's not one.
I mean, it's a sour beer. You know, sometimes the rules aren't the same for sour beers.
Yeah, I guess that's
It's
that's
quite
fair.
refreshing. I do agree with your idea that's like more of like a prosecco based like cocktail for like brunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. This would be great on like a sunny and 65-degree day, sitting outside, just
In the
refreshing.
Adirondack chair.
Yeah, absolutely.
No. Somebody's playing cornhole in the distance.
How would you rate this vis-a-vis the Thuckles?
I'll give it 110. I'd probably give this a good 6.5.
6.5 Thuckles.
I gotta do Thuckle math. Hang on. 6.5 Thuckles. Wait,
No, it's
6.5 out of 10.
It's okay. We're in a big inflationary period, so I think you're allowed to go past 4 Thuckles. So typically, you know, Anthony didn't like the half scale or half thumb thing, so it was always
he's like half
2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down, you know, and all points in between. And I finally broke him down. He said, "Fine, we'll just do 1 knuckle of thumb, 1 Thuckle would be a half." So the maximum is 4 Thuckles in any direction, whether it be up or down.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to pick a number from -4 to +4 Thuckles.
1.
1 Thuckle.
1 Thuckle.
Okay.
1 Thuckle. Okay, so just trending up.
I'm gonna go
Up
2
from the
Thuckles.
Zangief. Just a little. Just a little. I'm torn between Dos and Tris Thuckles. Al, where are you at?
I'm gonna go 2 Thuckles for sure.
2 Thuckles. All right, 2 Thuckles feels right.
I will say
It is decided.
On the sour Thuckle scale, I like my sours to be sour, and this is actually a little tame on the sour.
Sure.
The flavor is great, but I would like it to be a little bit more sour, a little more tart.
It's no sour monkey, but it's good.
Mm.
Speaking of, that's absolutely going to be beer number 2 tonight. I found
nice.
one while I was rummaging through the fridge before.
Nice.
All right, you ready for this?
Yes.
Blue raspberry. I've got an answer for you.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
All right. When I say me, I mean ChatGPT has an answer for you.
Before we dive into this,
Yeah.
have you skimmed through it already or not?
No.
Okay, I was going to ask, do you think that this immediate rabbit hole tangent will be better or worse? I think our gold standard is what's the difference between an orchard and a grove, but
we're never getting to the movie.
We learned together what the difference was between an orchard and grove. I don't remember if you listened to that episode. It was probably a year-ish ago.
Give it.
I don't remember though.
What's the difference between an orchard and a grove?
Oh, so it came down to specificity. It's one of those things where like a grove is a subcategory of orchard. An orchard requires that everything growing in it be of the same variety of whether it be apples or whatever, whereas a grove can be, you could have peaches, you could have apples, you could have pears, you could have all of those lemons in there.
Wait, so all orchards are groves?
Yes, I think.
But not all groves are orchards. It's like fingers and thumbs.
I'm pretty sure that's where we settled.
Okay.
Vis-a-vis orchard versus grove.
It's like Y being a vowel.
It's like how dolphins are.
I don't even know how to unpack that one in relation to this.
I feel like that's its own thing. It's like how dolphins are whales, but whales aren't dolphins.
Okay.
Hang on. I think I could get behind this Y thing. Are all groves are orchards sometimes?
Yes.
Like the Y. Much like the Y.
Ys are like groves, I think is what you're going for.
Got it.
Yes.
All right, cool. Blue raspberry is a flavor commonly used in various food and drink products, especially candies, beverages, blah, blah, blah. The origin of the blue raspberry flavor are a bit unclear. but it is believed to have been developed by the food industry in the mid-20th century. Fuckers. Raspberry flavors have been popular for a long time, but the artificial blue color was added to create a visually striking and unique product.
I fucking nailed it.
I think so. Okay, so really what it comes down to is like, well, we already have cherry. That's going to be confusing.
Yes.
So we need to pick something else.
No, this is a real thing.
Right.
Like, it's like, oh, yeah, we have cherry juice and we have strawberry juice, or we have cherry candy, we have strawberry candy. They're both red. We don't need a third red. We need a blue.
Now, here's where ChatGPT gets a little confused. Ready? The specific reason for choosing the color blue is not entirely clear either, but it is speculated that the aim was to differentiate it from other fruit flavors, especially red raspberry. No, strawberry. It is red raspberry, so let's hang on that one. Strawberry or cherry. Now that's fair. Except strawberry's got the market on pink, cherry's got the market on red. I could see where it gets a little bit confusing.
What if raspberry, but blue?
What I've noticed recently is that raspberry ice cream is purple around here. So like, did we just decide to drift into purple territory?
I think they just maybe gave it a drop of blue because they thought it would be
just a touch. It was red naturally.
Yes,
and they added the blue dye, purple.
I suspect that.
I know colors. All right. Sweet. No,
he's going to work on shapes and numbers later this week.
That's next. Oh my goodness. Well, that was a blast. Fun tangent. I think without further ado, we should probably get into some news and nuggets.
Yeah.
As far as news goes, the only actual news was the Killers of the Flower Moon, which for some reason I'm having a very hard time remembering. If you've noticed, I've had to go back to my notes every time I've said it. So
I was kind of hoping that every successive time you would put the plurality in a different
Killer
word.
of the Flower Moons.
Well, I was really hoping for a Killer of the Flowers Moon.
Yeah,
but,
sure. Spiders, man.
Exactly. Assorted Spiders, man. I heard that there was a good one today. I was listening to the Dan Levitard show, and they were talking about Jeff Van Gundy and Stan Van Gundy, two brothers, both coached in the NBA. Both of them on TV now. And they were talking about the Van Gundys, and someone asked, are they the Van Gundys or are they the Vans Gundy?
They get it. Amazing. Tell me about this movie. I know nothing of it.
So you didn't watch the trailer before? I walked away before. I couldn't remember if you watched it.
No.
Nelson, you watched the trailer
I watched the
before
trailer.
we started. Why don't you start us off?
I'm very intrigued. Again, if you remember the trailer at all, it's Martin Scorsese, of course. De Niro's in it. DiCaprio's in it. Another great cast. We have I forgot his name already. Brendan Fraser's in it. The guy. Yeah.
Wonderful. My man.
It's part of the Fraser sons.
The Fraser comeback tour.
Nice.
It's very intriguing. I don't want to spoil too much on the premise, but
well, we can talk about anything that's included in the trailer. The trailer's out. The movie technically has been shown at Cannes, so
okay.
Eventually it'll be available for public consumption, I guess. But like reviews are out because people have seen it since it was shown.
It's supposed to come out in October, which is a good time of year because it's kind of leading into the Dune territory, kind of going to be one of its main competitors at the time, I'm assuming. I think Dune is October. Yeah,
it's either end of October or the beginning of November. I know we talked about it not that long ago.
And this is coming out like October 20th, so it's around that exact time. I'm assuming the length of it is going to be quite long, just given the trailer and how much.
3 hours and 26 minutes.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
Get yourself an editor.
He had one for a long time. They did great work together.
I'm not one to complain about a long movie. I think that sometimes your script warrants that. I think sometimes you make the Titanic. And sometimes you're just making a movie that's too long. And I'm concerned. We saw the last one, right? Concerning. Too long.
So, did you watch The Irishman?
Of course, yeah. It was.
What do you think about it?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I gave it a 7.
Okay, so higher than us.
Mainly because I really liked De Niro. I did not like the aging. It was quite long. But this is based on a book.
Yeah.
Flower Moon.
Killer of the Flower. Killer ofs the Flower Moon.
But there's a whole
There's somewhere. Is it flowers or killers? We don't know yet.
But there's a whole Oscars category for adapting the screenplay.
Can you make
So,
of a plural?
There is an art there, and 3 hours and 26 minutes is not that art.
I don't know. I didn't read the book, so I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play as an adaptation. And whatever. But it could be a long ass. Yeah, it could be a long ass book, and it could require a 3.5 hour movie. Like I don't want to prejudge just based on length.
Sure.
Because I didn't prejudge The Irishman. I did kind of go, that seems like excessive.
You're not, but that's the thing. We're not prejudging this based on length. We're prejudging it based on the length of The Irishman.
Yeah, but even there, I'm going to be willing to be fair. He's made other long movies before, and it's justified the length. That one didn't. It was also the most dramatic example of abusing the length of the movie. So it was also the one that they made a big deal of the fact that it was the first time he didn't work with that editor in 30 years or whatever it was.
And it shows. Is he back? Is the editor back?
I believe it was a woman, and I have no idea.
I hope she's back.
Either way,
she needs to be back. Please come back. I beg of you.
The trailer is interesting. I think it was if I remember, because I watched it whenever it was last week or the week before, so I'm a little hazy on the details. But I think the gist of it was there's a specific tribe of Native Americans that were being particularly persecuted in that area at that time.
Osage.
Yeah, the Osage. And it looks like it's going to be a whole battle around that treatment of them at that time and the general sentiment towards those people at that time. So I'm sure it'll be an interesting study on all of those complexities of how people treated each other back then, which, generally speaking, wasn't great. So that should be interesting.
Sure. Yeah, I'm down. I mean, just the plot alone, it seems interesting.
Is this the first?
Interested. So.
Considering De Niro was Scorsese's first muse and DiCaprio's his more recent one, this is the first time they've both been in one together, right?
I was saying the same thing. I don't think I can remember something off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure this is the first time the two of them have been in a Scorsese movie at the same time, right? I should know that off the top of my head, but it feels right.
It does.
Yeah. Cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
Is this... Yeah. Well, interesting. Well, anyway, I'm down for this. Did the trailer... Why are you bringing this up right now? Did the trailer just come out, or did the movie just release? Or
well, Con was the other day, and the trailer...
And that's where it was aired?
Yeah, and the trailer was released a few days before that or something like that.
Cool.
So it's been within the past week or so. Also, corollary to that, total separate note, but Scorsese apparently was in the Vatican recently and met the Pope and said he's going to make a movie about Jesus, so that'll be interesting too.
Sure.
I know he already made The Last Temptation of Christ, which I never saw, but I guess this is going to be a different one than that, obviously, so...
I feel like I've seen that. What's the one where Jesus doesn't blink the entire runtime?
I don't know. He made the one with Willem Dafoe when Willem Dafoe played Jesus.
Right. Jesus of Nazareth is what I'm thinking of. That was it was like a made-for-TV limited series type thing.
We have talked about this before on the show. That's right. Now that you said it, was it? Who was it? Wasn't Charlton Heston? That was. No, was it Max von Sydow? Who was it?
I'm looking it up right now.
We did talk about this.
We definitely did.
Probably 6 months ago or something like that.
It was Robert Powell. Wait, are you asking who played Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Powell.
Then why did we talk about that one?
I probably brought up the blinking thing.
Probably.
It's one of those phenomenons that I'm just like, this is really... I mean, it's incredibly long. And there is not a blink to be had.
I'm sure the movie wasn't a oneer. I'm sure he blinked in between shots and all that.
You don't know. What if that was an artistic choice? I'm gonna like a Daniel Day-Lewis. I am Jesus for the time being, and in my mind, Jesus doesn't blink. He can. He's got to watch him all the time.
Sorry, I know Nelson hasn't watched Ted Lasso, so we're not going to be able to really talk about that too much later. But and actually, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the whole finale. I got the very late tonight. I watched the first 20 minutes. It was an hour and 20 minutes long.
Sure.
Short finale.
Yeah. But last week's episode, the penultimate episode,
whew,
The scene
Fire.
at the end with Beard and Nate.
Oh,
Beard does not blink the whole scene.
no, he doesn't.
And it's like they do a close up on his eyes too. Like he
Yeah.
does not blink.
Yeah, and it's an incredible scene for so many reasons. But yes, that's very captivating.
Yes, but it was
Also,
very
you definitely
apparent
think Beard's going to kill somebody in that scene.
Well, he reveals that he went to prison, which is the first time we've heard that. So
it's great.
You should
I
watch
love that show.
I really want to get into it, which actually bridges to another point, or back to our original point. I'm not going to go watch Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters. I'm not saying a seat for 3.5 hours, but I do hear it's getting released on Apple TV.
Ah, clutch.
So,
I mean, he did
ties into Ted Lasso.
He did.
Let's see what you did
The
there.
Irishman for Netflix, right? So,
I mean,
would you guys watch that in theaters?
I would, but I would hope that at that length they do a 15-minute intermission. I'm gonna have to pee, and I hate having to stand up and run out and like hope that I'm not run. I mean, granted, there's like the Run Pee app, which is pretty great that lets you know when it is a safe time to run out to go.
I've heard of things like it.
I'm not gonna. I don't look at my phone. I'm adamant about that,
Yes.
and Al knows he's the worst. But
I don't do it that often.
once is too much.
I mean, that's excessive. Draconian, even. I don't know if you listened to you probably didn't catch our episode on The Irishman. I got anxiety during that movie because I thought it was almost over, and there was still like an hour 45, and I was like, "Oh Jesus Christ!" I thought that I was like
that
80% of the way done with the movie, and I'm like 60% of the way done with the movie.
Have you rewatched it?
No, I will never watch that movie again.
I actually recently rewatched it, and it
All
felt
week?
quicker. I rewatched it on the plane. Well, I guess it doesn't count, but it felt quicker. It didn't feel like it was 3 hours. It was.
It's only because the alternative was sitting in silence. And
I
metal death tube.
I had a whole series of articles on how watching a movie on a plane increases its score by at least 2 points.
That's actually a good point. He did say that. Especially, I think it's probably got to be even more drastic when you're rewatching a movie. Because it's giving you comfort in the time that you desire it, consciously or subconsciously.
True. Interesting. Anyway, any other trailers drop recently?
I
feel like some stuff has happened.
Was super noteworthy that I could think of. I don't know.
All right. Well, I think in record time, we move right into consumption, which is where we're probably going to be parking it for a minute.
Yeah.
So it sounds like I got the impression from before the show that Nelson is also a viewer of Succession.
Yeah, he's the only person that like I routinely was able to talk about during the final season. With
great.
So
that's what you gunned for him hard for this episode. Then is what you're telling me.
No, he invited himself. He told me weeks ago. He's like, I want to do Guardians when you guys do it. I said, all right. It just so happened that it lined up perfectly. That it was after the finale of Succession.
So, Al, I'm going to start with you. It's over. Yes. What are your thoughts? How do you feel?
It was a spectacular finale. It was a perfect finale for the show. I think coming down the stretch, whether you thought it was going to be some dramatic twist you didn't expect, or whether you thought it was going to end whichever way you thought it was going to end, this was the best way to end it, because what the show has been about, if you didn't realize it all along, you certainly do now. It's about the fact that the three of them are utterly incompetent, and if you didn't get that from all of the actions across the last 4 seasons, and specifically in this last episode, Roman finally said the quiet part out loud. He's the only person with the amount of... It's weird because he's probably been the person who's, I don't want to say lied to himself the most, but has been the hardest in trying to actually face his demons down. But him at the end
he
saying...
is by far the most complicated character on the show in the best way.
Yeah, that's probably true. But he said it's all bullshit. We are bullshit. Mm-hmm. We are nothing. It's nothing. He's finally the only person who's come to grips with the fact that none of them can actually do anything. None of them have ever actually done anything. The only other person who's remotely and even he's got like big problems with like actually like his ability to not even self-actualized, but like to like come to grips with what he is Connor, because Connor never wanted power. He knew he wasn't going to get it. Like, at least within the company, he tried to do his own thing, as much of a joke as that was. And even there, it's like he came to terms pretty early on. I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to win. It's just about like the conversation or something, right? But like the point was, none of them could win. It would have felt wrong for any of them to be on top at the end. It would have felt wrong for the three of them together, because they were never able to do anything together for more than 4 seconds. And if you look at the whole run of the show, there's only one person who's ever been even the most vague, remote competent on the show. It's been Tom. And the thing he's most competent at is eating shit, which is what he did his way all the way up to the top. So I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Nelson, what are your feelings? Were you like on track with that show weekly for the entire run?
I got into the show midway through the 2nd season, so I've been with it for a while, and I wholeheartedly agree. I absolutely loved the way they ended it. It was great. I never do previews or anything like that, so I've seen some of the previews in previous seasons where you can kind of see what's going to happen. Especially for this season, I did it, and I think Tom coming out on top was probably my favorite idea, because earlier in the season he had one really great line that I think resonates with a lot of people, that him and Shiv are just going at it. They're yelling. We thought one of them was going to die, maybe jump off that balcony. And he said, I really like nice things. I like money, and this is the life I like. And he'll do anything to protect it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's doing. He did that last season when he betrayed Shiv, because he knew if you're going to bet on somebody, you're betting on Logan.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did what he needed to do. And he's not doing anything different than he's been doing at ATN, right? He's still going to eat the shit. He's still going to be that guy. Yeah. He still has Greg to do his Gregging.
Yeah. Oh my God. When he put the sticker on Greg's head, I was like,
yes, great. When Greg slapped him, I was like, go Greg.
Yes! When both of them slapped each other, I was like, this is the worst, most terrible fight ever, and I was dying laughing.
Yeah. And aside from Tom, that's only one of the fights in the show. Well, fights is kind of a loose term. When Roman and Kendall are hugging, that was just excruciating to watch. And seeing Kendall just lose it in that room with Shiv was amazing. Is probably the best word I can think of it. It was beautiful. And you could see that maybe in that moment, Kendall is breaking inside and seeing literally his entire goal since he was 7 go right through his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think anyone could say anything meaner to someone after Tom saying, I think you're someone who shouldn't have children, maybe, while she is currently pregnant. To be fair, he didn't know that, but still. I didn't think anyone could say anything meaner than that until everything that the three of them said to each other in that room in that final sequence.
It was pretty dark. It was pretty dark.
Because every one of them said something just truly dreadful to or about one of the other people who was in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was rough. That was rough. It was fun, though, to see them flailing about. I love the scenes shot. I love when they shot that scene from the outside of the room, and you could hear the muffled arguing, and I just look at them just flailing around in there. It's over. It's over. It's great. I also before the episode started, just before it started, I was like, I hope it's Tom, and then the episode played out, and I went, oh.
The long running joke was everyone's like, oh, somehow Greg's gonna be atop the smoking rubble, and it's like that was entertaining to think about for a while, but he literally can't do anything. The only thing he can do, he doesn't even do as well as someone else on the show, and it's suck up, like Tom does.
He blackmails quite well.
No, not even that well, because he immediately gave up the game. He didn't even take the advice from Tom. Let it sit like a fine bottle of wine. He immediately runs to Kendall, and it's he's right, it was the silver bullet. He just took it to someone who was going to fire with his eyes shut. Mm-hmm. So it's not super useful at that point. So, yeah, for a while now, I assumed Tom was going to have a chance at this, and he made the ultimate power play. He is the only person on the show within the orbit of the family that Logan had even the slightest bit of respect for. I mean, he didn't. I would say actively disrespected him for a lot of things, but after he committed to going to prison for him and then cemented it by betraying his own wife to Logan, I think Logan actually respected him. I don't think he liked him, but I think he respected him in his own little way for very specific reasons.
That's why Logan actually advised him on the divorce lawyer stuff.
Yeah. He helped Tom to get through the divorce, or maybe, he knew that he would poison the water so much that they wouldn't get divorced, and that's what he wanted. I don't know.
Yeah. I would feel horrible about this if Shiv wasn't the worst character.
They all are. They're all the worst.
Hang on. They're all terrible. Who are the top 3 worst? Nelson, go.
Can they all be equal? Can it all be the 3?
No,
kids?
you got to rank them. You got to make the hard call.
So I'll be honest. The top 3 are the 3 kids.
Okay.
Actually, hold on. I'm gonna backtrack. The worst is Kendall. Even though I'll give him, he kind of killed a person.
He didn't murder someone. He did kill them.
He did stuff that led to their death. I'll put Shiv up there as number 2, just because the things she's done to Tom are awful. The night of their wedding, saying you want to open marriage is just. How do you deal with that?
After the vows, not before them.
It's ridiculous.
It's actually like in their like personal, like, in their actual personal relationship, it's even worse because she knows that he'll eat shit.
Yeah.
And she's just like, all right, so I'll do whatever I want.
Which, when you think about it, how at the end, he's like, I have a car waiting for us. And she's like, my car's probably gone now.
She's like, fuck off. But then she's in that car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, the most uncomfortable hand-holding in the history of cinema.
Of course.
Yeah. It's
as he puts the hand out, and they don't even like clasp hands. She just like awkwardly rests it on the heel of his hand, and I was like, ah.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I like the way Roman's arc ended, where he said, at the end, it's all bullshit. We're all bullshit. I'm gonna put Mattson up there at 3.
Okay.
Terrible person.
Yeah, pretty rough.
Blood. To
so much blood too. Not like once. Person. Like he not only did he not learn his lesson, he doubled, tripled, quadrupled, 100-folded down on it. He kept doing it over and over again.
I mean, he does it right. He told Tom, "No, I want to sleep with Shiv" to his face, and Tom played it right.
Well, that's where he won it, was when he's like, "Yeah, no, it's fine for you to talk about fucking my wife in front of me." Like, he proved, like, Shiv doesn't realize how firmly she fucked herself by telling Mattson, oh yeah, no, he'll suck the biggest dick in the room if, whatever. And you can see, like, the recollection, like, you can see, like, the recognition dawn in Mattson's, like, eyes. And then they have that conversation, and he's just like, the whole thing is just to test Tom's resolve. And I don't even think Tom realizes he's acing the test, but he gets 100. He gets 100 out of 100 points by being like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, go ahead. You talk about fucking with my wife all you want, really. He's like, oh wow, he really will.
God.
He'll literally take anything. Okay.
Brutal. So, okay, so what was it? It was Kendall, Shiv, and then Mattson. All right. Al?
It depends on the day. And that's the whole point of the show is that's what I've been advocating on behalf of this whole time that we've talked about around this, is like, every one of them is the worst depending on what your point of view is on that given day. What's happening in the events of the show? Who does the unspeakable thing to the other one? Who is momentarily sympathetic because the unspeakable thing is done to them? And like they somehow don't like immediately burst into flames. Like they find a way to continue like breathing after that. Like no one should be able to go on after some of the things that are done to them. And they keep doing it. And then the next episode, that person who you felt like a moment's pity for goes on to be the worst person in the world. Like, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to talk about it because we've been recording a few weeks. But like, literally the week after the last time we discussed how you still hold like the slightest candle of sympathy for Roman, the very next week he willfully tries to install a Nazi president. Like he just slips on the glove of Nazism. Is like, that actually kind of fits nice. And it's like, where did that come from? Like, this is a person who you said is probably the most complex of all of the major characters.
Mm-hmm.
He is someone who you can feel some real sympathy for, even while being disgusted by him, because he is a disgusting person. And then he's just like, Nazism's fine, just because it's convenient to me right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
And then 1 week later, he melts, and he's weeping in front of everyone about his father. And it's like, yeah, I understand that. I do feel bad for you, you little Nazi shit.
Yeah, but you have to pick
So
three.
top three.
So the worst person in the show is probably Hugo. He is, he's certainly the most disgusting person. And that includes Roman, who has jerked off on his window of his office above the city, and oversaw and did a lot of other disgusting things. But like, Hugo makes my skin crawl. I think he's hysterical, but he makes my skin crawl. He's disgusting. I'd probably go with him one. I'd probably go... Kendall's the worst because he killed someone. But after Kendall, it's Hugo for sure. And then... Like, I'm not counting Logan because he's dead at the end of the show.
You can count him.
Okay. Then I'm going to go...
He is still so involved dead.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's what's so cool about it, the character, too.
So then I'm going to go Kendall 1, Logan 2, Hugo 3.
Okay. That's right. Hugo is definitely a good call. He is just scum.
Yes.
I
love
scum.
Carolina at the end of the episode, or towards the end, right before the board meeting, when it looks like everything's going a certain way. And she goes to Shiv and says, I'm really looking forward to where this is all going. It's a new fresh start. No more backstabbing. And also, by the way, as soon as we're done, can we get rid of Hugo?
Yeah, that is great.
It's just some hypocrisy. They can't. It's in all their nature. They can't stop.
They've kind of butted heads a little bit.
Well, because I was always confused. They basically have the same job. It's just one of them is supposed to do it the nice way, and the other one's supposed to do it the dirty way. Like, they're the angel and the devil on your shoulder basically have the same job.
Yeah, the way I think it's structured is that she reports to him.
I never understood, because they're both basically in charge of PR, but I think it's just one of them does it with a smile and the other one does it with a knife.
With a bark. Woof woof.
Woof woof. That was hysterical.
Yeah.
He's
what a creep. Oh man. Yeah, that's I've been toying with this the entire season, so my three are pretty solidly locked at this point, because I've been developing it and moving them around episode by episode, and it's always stayed pretty close. But it's Logan, Shiv, Kendall for me.
Okay.
Logan is in my opinion, is the worst. He is. He's also the driving force behind everybody else being horrible. So he is like King Fucko.
I love all of those different iterations of all of that. Like,
it's terrible.
It's a shit show at the fuck factory or whatever it is. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Shiv and Kendall. Like, they were the ones that they were always in the top three for me, but I would flip flop them constantly. Where they've given you a lot of detail on Kendall, similar to they give you enough detail on Roman to know, like, there's clearly there's a lot of trauma involved in his early life. There's a lot of like stuff that they're not showing you, but they kind of hint at throughout. Like, his horribleness, as terrible as it is, like, not excusable, but you kind of like, you could see that you could chart the path to how he gets to where he is, and like, you'd be like, in some of these situations you were dealt a really shitty deal, and you did not have the support system to ever possibly be any better. You're going to be horrible. And like, there's something about that I feel like bumps him below the other two siblings.
Yeah, up until he decided to steamroll through the Nazi president just because it was convenient to him.
Yeah, but even that was more about like how he's like, it's not going to change us, so it doesn't matter. And like, that is
which is the worst and most callous version of that.
It is. It's horrible.
Because look at the two different versions of that within the same grouping, right? Like Kendall was looking for every reason not to do it, and Roman was just like, this is the path of least resistance. Let's do it.
But what I think is funny about that is those are like flip sides, right? Because I feel like in every other scenario, Roman is like does second guess, right? And Kendall is always just terrible. He's just like, no, I'm going to do the thing that makes sense for me. And this was the first and only time in the entire series that he maybe showed a little bit of interest in something other than himself for a small moment, but not enough to make a difference, which makes it even worse.
He's still,
it's even worse.
I don't know. The point was he
made the call.
He still had a line.
Kendall made the call.
He made the call because he was in that moment personally betrayed, and
sure.
I don't.
But Kendall made the call. Roman has no power and never did.
Well, no, he broke the tie. It was the three of them in that moment were supposed to still be equal. It was a tie, and Kendall was the tiebreaker.
But Roman's constantly looking to Kendall to make the call. Roman's never making a call.
No, he already had made the call by going on and typing in the teleprompter to the other guy. This is just, he just physically couldn't. It's the nature of the two in the box system was that they both needed to decide on something like that from like a quote unquote legal standpoint.
Sure.
Otherwise, they could start suing each other over who's overstepping their power. The two of them needed to be together. Roman was walking right up to that line with everything he did by sending the information out, by going to Ravenhead or whatever the fuck his name was, like all that stuff. He crossed, like he kept walking up to that line where he wasn't actually going to be able to get in trouble for any of the shit he was doing, just trying to force Kendall's hand.
Sure. So he kendalled for one moment.
Wait, what's that?
He kendalled for a moment.
What do you mean?
Kendall is worse. He's the one that does that all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also, can we talk about that since we didn't get to talk about that episode? Because that was a pretty spectacular episode, as disgusting as it was.
Need like 4 showers.
Yeah, no, super gross. But everything with Tom and Greg in that episode was perfect Tom and Greg.
Oh my god.
Greg, I need you to
the
Greg
wasabi in the eye is
the
really...
wasabi and the lemon seltzer. It's not that lemony.
It's a hint of lemon.
It's a hint of lemon. It's not that lemony. But even my favorite thing in that whole episode was one of the best lines in the whole season was when he's like, the whole thing about doing cocaine. He's like, I may need some. He's like, no, are you sure? Yeah. He goes, come do it with me. No, I did some last night. I don't want to do it 2 days in a row. I don't want to get addicted.
Yeah.
And Tom's terrible line about, he goes, it's good for you, Greg. It's good for your brain. The Aztecs did it all the time. Are you calling them stupid? That's racist. He played the race card to get him to do cocaine with him.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. What a ridiculous show. I think the execution of that final season altogether was pretty solid, though. It was getting a little stale for me in the previous season. But this kind of... I think killing Logan off earlier on to throw everything into chaos for the remainder of the series was a power move. And I think
also, this whole season felt like it took place over the course of a year. It took place over the course of like 10 days.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The execution on that, to feel like you watched a lifetime happen, and it was like not even 2 weeks or something like that. It was just incredible.
Yeah, because a few of those episodes just did day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, there was like a 3 or 4 episode run in a row where you're literally consecutive days.
Can you clarify something for me?
Sure.
Was Roman saying that Kendall's kids aren't Kendall's kids?
Yes.
Okay. And
which I don't remember.
First time they're saying something like that?
I don't remember, honestly.
Same. The way I read it is, I guess some of his kids are Rava's, some of them are maybe half, but she's the bloodline.
Well, no, what he was saying was, because Kendall, I think, has 2 kids, and what Roman was saying was that they adopted one, and that the other one, what Roman was alleging was that they must have done in vitro, and that who knows if it was Kendall's.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I believe that's what Roman was getting at there. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, talk about like saying like the worst things you could possibly say to someone about that. Like basically what he's saying is like Shiv's the only person who actually has got a chance. I mean, he's taking himself down too because he literally can't have sex for whatever reason. Like he just has like his repressed trauma and whatever is like he's not capable. He's basically saying, yeah, no, I'm never gonna have kids, and you clearly can't either for different reasons. So Shiv's the only one who actually can carry on Dad's legacy.
As much as Kendall tore himself apart in that room, I loved Roman in that room. He was great.
Yeah.
He was protecting Shiv when Kendall tried to go at her, and he just had one of the best lines of saying that we're all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I loved his character arc in that last episode. It was very clean, especially the way it started with him at their mom's, who just invited them for just so her husband's friend can pitch them.
I love Peter Munyon so much. He had one of my favorite
Peter's
lines.
cheese.
Peter's so it was so gross. He had one of my favorite lines all season as well, despite the fact that he's only had like 12 lines in the whole show. He's been in like 3 episodes. When they're at Logan's funeral, and he just comes from off screen and goes, "Don't worry, Daddy's here."
Yeah.
At their father's funeral. They've met him one time before that at his wedding to their mom. Like, they hadn't even met him before that.
Terrible. Oh, it's so gross. Oh, there's so much of that show that is so gross.
Yes.
Painful. I'm glad I watched it. It's not an easy recommend for me to other folks. Like, I definitely, I have to know their tastes because it's not for everybody.
The thing is, it is one of the funniest shows I've ever watched. And for the first probably 3/4 of the first season, you don't even realize it's a comedy at that point. It's one of the blackest comedies I've ever seen in my life because it is super dark and depressing when it needs to be. And even in some of the darkest and most depressing moments, there are still occasionally laughs to be mined, although, of course, in the last episode, they really moved away from that for the most part, because at that point, it needed to end. The parallel I would draw is, not obviously a longer form version of it, but it's the closest thing to it that I've seen, really, is the death of Stalin, which is the truly the blackest comedy I've ever seen, just packed into like an hour 45. And I think that's a natural comparison because that's Armando Iannucci. He made that same HBO sensibility of talking about these bigger things that are super serious and super dark and finding a way to laugh at them. And that one too, you're laughing through terrible things happening. And then the final 10 minutes of that movie, you wonder, will you ever be able to laugh again because of how dark it goes? And that's how this show goes as well. They just slowed it down a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie before.
I haven't.
I highly recommend it. We watched it.
It is 90 minutes of pure comedy. Sorry, 90% pure comedy, and then the final 10% of like, we're still laughing, right? Right.
Honestly, like if you never laughed again after watching the last 10 minutes, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess this is it for me in my life. But what comes before that, it's hysterical. It's terrible, but it's hysterical. It's
ridiculous. It's like it's got like the perfect like combination of like clever humor and slapstick and and the material that they're working with, like the time frame and timeline that they're working in, is just like not something that's supposed to be funny, which
is
also
literally
makes it
like,
hilarious.
It's literally about the couple of weeks after Stalin dies and the power grab of all the terrible people on like the inner circle and how incompetent they all are, but also like these people are literally like ordering people dead and all that shit. Like it's
a snapshot of Succession. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining. A runtime that I can get behind.
Sure. I loved the show. I was a day one when this show first had trailers come out on like HBO or whatever. I was like, I need to see what that's all about. The very first episode was good, but I was like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what the show is going to be. Is this a comedy? Is this a drama? Is it what? I don't know. After like probably the 3rd or 4th episode, I was like, okay, this is something that's going to happen here. Like this is this is going to be as good as I was hoping when I first heard about it. And I loved it from start to finish. I think it ended the perfect amount of time. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to want more, but anything more they would have done would have probably betrayed what they accomplished to this point. So I'm glad that they ended it in the way that they did, in such a high bar of excellence from start to finish. And like, yeah, it's about shitty stuff and shitty people. Like, I get it if like everyone's mileage on that's going to vary, but the writing, the direction, the acting was just so stellar at all points that I derived so much enjoyment from watching these terrible people be terrible to each other.
That's fair. I'm with you. I'm not in the I think it was good. I think that the performances are incredible, all of them. I think the writing is cohesive. It's not necessarily something that like material that I'm like super interested in, but they did a good, like it's super competent. Like they're doing it right. I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that it's over. Nelson, any final thoughts on Succession?
I've really enjoyed it. It's going to be my top 5. I'll be honest. It was great. I love how quickly they ended it. The character depth of these characters was insane. And I relate to what you said earlier. It's like, I wouldn't recommend it to a lot of people because it's hard to grasp a lot of that, especially in the first season. So a lot more stuff going on, a lot more stuff to unpack that they really just like put in your face.
Yeah.
Like,
imagine recommending that show to someone that you barely know, and then they watch it and they're like, what the
Exactly. I loved it. I loved the way it ended. I love the final sequence of the kids. I've touched on it a bit, but I think Roman's final sequence was just kind of at peace, and Kendall's was, I don't know, maybe about to jump in the water.
It was definitely I was watching real close, very similar to when Tom and Shiv went on the balcony. I was like, something about what they're doing right now makes me uncomfortable. And then when Kendall walked over to the elevator, I was like, is he going to hit up or down? Is he going to hit up or down? Is he going to like? Because seriously, like, don't know where his character's going in that moment. It's heavy stuff.
Well, I think there's always been an association with him with like the water. You know, him almost drowning in the car crash, him almost drowning in the pool.
Yep.
There was one time that he takes like a celebratory swim, right, where it's like he's actually swimming in a positive way. And then there's them swimming in that episode together where he thinks he's on top of the world and he's literally resting on a raft. Like, you cannot be safer than what he was in the water. And to follow it with him walking, looking like he wants something more than to actively drown himself in the water there. It was a continuing...
he's constantly drowning under the weight and pressure of his father. It's
absolutely. I mean,
it's written. It might as well be stamped on his forehead.
Yes,
he has a wave tattoo on his left bicep. I will. So occasionally, I will slip into a Kendall impression. For all of the just like for very stupid decisions that need to be made, like what we're gonna eat. Like, we'll be hungry. And it'll be late, and I haven't cooked. I'll be like, pizza? Should we do pizza? Let's just fuck it, right? Let's look at pizza. And and I'd realized in doing that how many lines of dialogue in that show mean nothing. There's so many times they're not saying anything, but it sounds like they're saying something important, but they're saying nothing.
Yes.
And it drives me up a wall.
But it's incredible because that's how people like that are.
That's shit that drives me crazy.
Yeah. And I do wonder if that's one of those times where she couldn't quite suppress the Australian accent. I wonder sometimes. It's funny. I was watching last night. I was watching the finale last night, and my parents had been out on like a walk or whatever, and I was watching, and she came in. My mom came in while I was watching. I forget which scene it was. It was one of the scenes where Kendall was really like, I don't know if it was in the boardroom or if it was before that when he was trying to convince them. The siblings, and Kendall does a thing where he says, he's making a point, yeah, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a point. Yeah. And she's like, why does he say that? I said, it's just a verbal crutch. She's like, oh, okay, yeah.
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 It's terrible.
Because all of them had their thing. I also realized after, and it's definitely been something they've gone through the whole show with, but I noticed in particular in the last few episodes, I want to start incorporating when someone does a poor job or screws something up. Not just saying you fucked up, but saying you fucked it.
Yeah.
I've really grown to appreciate that. Like, Ken was going after Roman last week when he says, yeah, Rome, you fucked it, right? Yeah, you fucked it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's fucked. You fucked it. Like,
It's like a 20-minute sequence of him saying that over and over again. Oh, God. It's too much. Yeah, so Kendall says, yeah, a lot. Shiv says, and yeah, in a really annoying way. Logan was the, which would just drive me up a wall. And
also, the
Roman
great...
touches his face a lot. And like a lot.
I also always like the Tom, I'm uncomfortable. I desperately want to scream no, but I can't say no. He goes,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That show was something.
Greg has one. He just between every single I'm not sure if I can go and do that.
The way that he like asks everything is a question. Everything.
Yes.
All statements.
Well, Greg was an incredible character for one particular reason in the show. He's one of the very few characters who got an arc. Because when you think about it, from start to finish of the show, Kendall, Shiv, and Rome did not change at all in any way, shape, or form. This show has never been about their personal growth. It's been about revealing that these characters are incapable of growth at this point in their life. That they're just these terrible people who are going to continue to be self-sabotaging and self-defeating. Tom and Greg get character development over the course of the show in two different ways. I think Tom, it's more about revealing his character over the course of it. And with Greg, it was more about how, like, early on in the show, he's like pretty much the only character you could root for. Like, he wasn't terrible early on. He's just a guy, kind of a dope, but just a guy. And by the end of it, he is just as toxic and terrible as any of them, really. Except maybe more soulless. He like doesn't actually have a single thought about a single person other than himself by the end of the show. And I think it was just meant to show, like, it's, no matter what stage of your life that you join this enterprise, if you become associated with this, you will lose your soul. You will be destroyed. You will be ground down and spit out by this machine. It happened to the three kids. And the control group in this scientific experiment is Connor. He never wanted to be a part of it. And that's why he's the most, I guess, emotionally healthy of all of them. The least terrible of all of them. I mean, he's a total dweeb. He's totally out of touch with society and the world. But he does not do 1/100th of the disgusting things that any of the other people do.
No.
I feel like some of his has to be behind the scenes because I think Connor's a little messed up as well. It's just
he is.
It's just he's so much older that you haven't seen that arc of his.
He is just as messed up as any of them, but the point is he's the only person who doesn't use that as an excuse to be terrible to other people.
So
right,
he's a nice.
He's
guy.
just an idiot.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like he is just as damaged as them, but he doesn't choose to manifest it in a way that is actively harmful to other people in the way that all the other people do. And it's because he never had the desire to climb the way the rest of them did. I mean, he had like one throwaway line to Logan about like, in like the second season, like, well, I'm your oldest son. Why not me? And he's just like, Logan kind of used the kid gloves that Connor's the only person that Logan ever used a kid glove.
True.
For whatever reason, which is funny considering he treated him the least like his son in all of them and the whole run of the time. And that's the only time Connor ever says anything about it. And like that's it. It's done because he wasn't even serious about it. And even saying it, he wasn't serious.
Yeah,
well, that's a good point. Brings us to that video that
Yeah.
they all watch together, where Logan is so different than we've ever seen him.
It's the rat fuckers and his one son that he could stand looking at.
Yep. Oh, man.
Also, I really liked the impressions that they did of him, specifically Connor's, but like the impressions of Logan.
That was good. What an interesting show. All right. Well, Succession is over, and that is behind us. Moving into some other consumption, what have you all been consuming? Al? Oh.
Al.
I was going to say, Al, why don't you go first and lay the groundwork?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a fun one. So, Nelson, Anthony recommended a movie to me a few years ago. It was not a movie that he was like, this is the most amazing thing ever, you have to watch it. It's part of why it stuck out to me, because I was familiar with the movie when he recommended it. It was not something that I felt a desperate desire to watch. And Anthony was like, oh yeah, watch it. It's interesting. It's an experience. Okay, why not? That was like 4 years ago. So I finally got around to it last week. I was like, oh, what do I want to watch? I have a little bit of free time. Let me kind of go through the back catalog that I kind of keep in the mind all the time of movies that, like, yeah, I'd like to get around to that one of these days. Anthony, can you guess what that movie was?
I'm really racking my brain. My memory is like non-existent at this point, so
it's okay. I was wondering if the way that I was kind of curiously,
I feel like I can like vaguely remember like this type of conversation, but I also feel like we've probably had it a million times, so I don't know.
Oh, sure. So, well, as soon as I say it, you're going to be like, oh. So I watched last week A Simple Favor.
Hang on 1 second. Give me a second. I gotta even remember what the movie is. I know the name is familiar.
Okay, so I thought as soon as I said it, you were going to be like, oh.
Yeah, I think it'll come flooding back. I do. So, quick tangent. The other day, I have a shoebox under my bed. Well, that is now a bigger box. It moved everything into a bigger box of movie stubs. Just tons and tons of movie stubs. And it spilled, and I was like putting some of them back in, and I was like, what is this movie? For a few of them. A Simple... Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, this was good. It was a good movie. It's fine.
Anthony, what the fuck was that movie?
Yeah. Were you not engaged the entire time?
I was
wondering where it was going, what was happening. I was for sure. It's an attention grabber for sure.
I was for sure entertained and intrigued by the movie. I don't know whether I can say reliably that it was a good movie or even a bad movie.
No,
I don't know that I can even necessarily 100% say whether I liked or disliked the movie. I certainly experienced the movie.
Yeah, you're not mad you watched it?
No, not even a little bit. It was just while I was watching it, and then especially after I was done watching it, I was like, how did this movie get made?
It's bizarre.
It is a unique movie. I think that's the best word to describe it, really.
I think, do you know who directed it?
I'm sure I must have seen it when I looked it up, but I don't remember.
Paul Feig.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that's which is like, if ever there was a wild card, it's this guy.
He's got a weird catalog, right?
Yeah, he's all over the place.
Yeah. Nelson, do you know this movie I'm talking about?
I know. I thought what it was the Anna Kendrick movie.
Yes.
And I quickly looked it up, and I was right. I remember seeing trailers, and I was like, this is not a movie for me.
That's what I thought. Well, not necessarily that's what I thought, but I remember seeing the trailers too, and I'm being like, is this supposed to be like a sexy taut thriller, or is it a comedy, or is it going to be like a slasher? I remember watching the trailer and being like, I have no idea what this is trying to communicate to me exactly.
All I remember, so when I pulled it up and some of it started flooding back, and I don't remember the entire plot. I don't remember even where it goes by the end. Good luck remembering what I do remember is that it's a lot of definitely being in the wrong situation, like all of the time. I'm pretty sure Anna Kendrick is constantly in a bad situation, like fumbling and stumbling into one, like the entire movie, if I recall correctly. Like always,
up until the point that
it always looks bad.
Up until the point that she starts accidentally stumbling into the right situation every time.
Right. Yeah. For the longest time, it always looks bad. I remember that, and I also remember How to Make a Martini.
Yes,
those were the only two takeaways I had. But it was one of those movies where, I don't recall the movie. I don't recall, but I'm not upset I watched it. I was paying for the viewing period of the movie.
I had those two takeaways, and I have a third takeaway.
Sure.
The wardrobe that Blake Lively wears in that movie.
Yeah.
Just some shocking clothing that I've well, because she, the very beginning, she's like a, kind of like a power businesswoman, and she's wearing this it looks like the women's equivalent of a 3-piece suit from Savile Row in fucking London.
Okay.
And then she goes home and takes the jacket off, and she's wearing a spaghetti string shirt underneath it with cufflinks. That's basically what she was wearing. I was just it was kind of did you ever see that ESPN commercial with John Clayton where he's doing the TV hit and he's dressed in a suit, and then they cut away and he's just wearing a fake suit that covers his bust.
Yes.
And he tears it off, and he's wearing a metal band t-shirt. He was sitting in his bedroom. That's basically what she did, but for business suits, where she took off the shell that was the jacket, and underneath is something deeply unserious. And she had a whole bunch of other just excessive wardrobe, and I was
really?
Do they make this can't be real, right? The wardrobe people just made these things up because they're hilarious, right? But also they all look like they cost $5,000.
It's probably real.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's probably a thing.
It probably is. I just couldn't believe it.
It's definitely her actual wardrobe.
In real life.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I guess spoilers maybe, because I'm guessing. The whole thing was life insurance fraud, right?
Yeah, spoiler alert, but yeah.
Okay. So something to do with that? It's coming back. There's parts. Is there a twin sister?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I remember this movie ish. Definitely saw it.
Those are the key details. Some of the twists and turns are largely unnecessary, and a couple of them made things more confusing. Not less.
I kind of remember that being the case. Being wait, what? Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Where are we right now? Yeah. Okay. Huh, all right, so that's what you watched.
Yeah, that was
the thing. I'm glad I sent you down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, years in the making.
What else are you consuming?
Well, we want to go round robin, Nelson.
Oh, let's because I've got a doozy.
Yeah, or you want to go next?
I'm going to go next. As you know, big fan of this series. Al will have to. We'll have to get on board so that we can do an episode.
God, yeah, I got to watch the one before it still.
Really, we didn't do that one.
No.
All right. Well, so I saw Fast 10. Fast X, if you will. I don't know. I don't know what the appropriate. Al needs to see Fast 9 Furious.
This is. Oh wait, have you heard us talk about that?
Yes.
The Fast 8 and Fast 9 Furious.
Yeah.
This actually sets up an important. Just a quick sidebar before you go on. So this was supposed to be the first part of a 2-part finale, right?
Yeah. Well, which was news to me.
Oh, but you don't know. No. We definitely talked about this 2 years ago. No, you knew
exactly
this.
2 years ago. You think I remember that?
I'm just saying you knew it.
When did Simple Favor come out? I didn't even know if I saw it until I looked it up.
I was surprised that you didn't recognize that, but that's fine too. But it was supposed to be a 2-part finale, but I think with the success of this one, he's now announced it's going to be a 3-part finale,
Maybe.
Which sets us up for them to finally get it right, because the final one could just be Fast XXX.
I thought the whole point was always going to be 12 movies. From 8. The last one I saw was 7. I started with the one with John Cena, and I was yep, not watching this. I couldn't get into it.
No, John Cena was in 9, right?
Oh, maybe
he
I've
was
seen
in
one
9.
That's the one I haven't seen.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I think he debuted in 9. Okay, listen. Here's the thing.
Continue.
I forgot. I did not know. Going into it, I was like, "This is the last one." That's what was happening in my mind. Saw the movie. A couple of things. Fast and the Furious series, as we know, it's not a good movie, but it's fun. I love it. It's very entertaining. It's absolute nonsense. It's just This it's real bad. Like, real bad. And however,
it's just making reams and reams of cash, though.
It's just not. It's so funny because, like, I mean, horrible special effects. Like,
really?
maybe the worst I've seen in years.
Wow.
Okay.
Like, you know when things are smooth? You know when special effects are bad and things are smooth? They shouldn't be 2003. That smooth? Yeah, that's a lot of that going on. A lot of frame skipping going on. Ooh. Yeah, weird, terrible, just terrible. Bad effects. All around bad. However, okay, sorry, not however. On top of that, now, Vin Diesel, not a good actor, but he does his thing, right? He does his Dominic Toretto, and he does it fine. He did it fine for 9 movies. He did Dominic Toretto as we know him for 9 movies, and then he did this. And I don't know if he's going for something else, or if he's just aging out of the role 20 years ago, but...
It could be both. I mean, well, to be fair, he did do different in Fast 8.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it was a little bit different. It's getting different. Anyway,
they framed him as a villain for the first half of it.
Yeah, it's not good though. It's weird. There's something about it. There's a disconnect. He's doing facial expressions. It looks like a telenovela. It's not it's not great. The effects are horrible. This is going on. We're getting into the movie, and I'm like, this. I know that the Fast and the Furious movies are not good movies, but they're enjoyable. And I was like, so far, this is bad. This is really bad. And I don't know how are they going to turn this around? Because I can't imagine the effects are going to get better by the end of the movie. That would be jarring. Like, more jarring than them being terrible. I would assume that his performance is not going to change back to what I expect from Dominic Toretto, but that would also be jarring. And then Jason Momoa comes in and eats up everything. And it is worth seeing this movie for that alone, even if you aren't a Fast and Furious fan. He is amazing in this movie.
That sounds like Jason Momoa to me.
He is dialed up to 19 on a scale of 1 to 10. He is up there. He's through the roof.
What's the conversion of that in Thuckles?
He is. You got to do the toes. It's all the toes. Everything. He's basically the Fast and Furious Joker, and really leaning into it, and in a way where it's like every character in Fast and Furious is over the top, right? It's just over the top, but he's on another level, and it's
you can't see the top from where he is.
He is so entertaining. And then, of course, you find out that he's also mentally unstable. And then he leans into that. And very much I'm like, oh no, he is this universe's Joker. And it's amazing. And
that's intriguing.
I implore you, do not leave the theater after the first 15 minutes. Stay and watch. Let his character settle in, because he's nuts and he does some really weird things, and they make you laugh along the way. It went from being, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit through all of this, to this is the most fun I've had in a Fast and Furious movie. Like, every other movie has better, like, it obviously has better effects. They have better, like, car chase, stunt scene, all of it. All of it's better in all of the other movies. This is still great because of him. He really pulls that much weight with this movie. And then,
like, there's a lot of weight to pull.
It gets to the end of the movie, and it gets to I would say a conclusion, but generally just they just cut the film right there. And I was like, well, okay. And Damien, who I went to see with, turned to, he's like, oh, you didn't know it was more than one? I was like, I probably did at some point, but no, I did not realize it was more than one.
That's awesome.
Now, without spoiling, will we be seeing more of him?
But yeah, I think you will. And there was a post-credit scene for the ages.
Really?
Yeah. If you follow, I'm going to leave it there because you haven't seen it yet. But.
Is there someone else I'm not aware of who's dead, who's alive again? Or did someone accidentally...
Oh, Al, we'll talk about it when you see it.
Was it say, or did they just re-kill Han or something?
No. I will... I will spoil one thing for you because it's easy to miss, and I want you to actually really be paying attention to it when you go see this movie.
Okay.
There's a scene where we go see Jason Statham, obviously, right? Of course we're going to see him at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we got like, they're like being real cagey about who they're going to talk to. And like, Han's like, I got to do it. And it's like, well, we'll go in with you. And he's like, I got to do this alone. I'm like, why? And I don't know. But I don't know what the reason is. But anyway, he's going to go do it alone. He's walking into the room. And in the room, he's in this like garage that is empty. And there's a heavy bag. And it's just Jason Statham with a hoodie and sweatpants on, punching the heavy bag, doing a workout in this non-gym place. Just a heavy bag in a room in an undisclosed location.
As one does.
Action movies. Anyway, he's doing that. He's punching this heavy bag and really just like aggressive about it, right? And then he stops when the guy walks in. They go through the whole thing, and then of course, oh no, there's a whole bunch of people here to get us. They followed you, whatever, and they attack the room. They're fine, and then like a car comes in and it blasts the heavy bag away. Anyway, I need you to watch it because I'm not going to go see it again before you see it and before we do an episode. I need you to make sure that I saw that right. That a car hit this heavy bag and launched it across the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because when all of the dust settles. The heavy bag opens, and a man in his underwear runs out.
Oh!
And I'm like, I turned to David, and I was like, "You got hit by a car, though, right?" And I'm fairly certain I'm right, but I'm going to need you to check that for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you guys should go see it together. I think you'll have a good time.
You sold it very well.
It's good.
I want to watch it now. But I'm very surprised the effects are.
Oh yeah, I can't. I mean, it's funny because you're gonna know what I mean just minutes into the movie. Okay, a couple other things that we need to get straight. Things that I need you to double check for me when you go see it.
Mm-hmm.
First, call me crazy. You've seen a bunch of these movies at this point. Dominic Toretto is Italian.
I've always been shaky on that.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's just that his sister clearly isn't.
Yeah, but his sister is his sister because they were like halfway through the script for the first movie. They're like, you know what? This one's his sister. I don't know. I always was under the impression that he was Italian.
Yeah, I mean Toretto sounds Italian, I guess.
Okay, well, that is not nothing wrong with this. It was just jarring to me when he has his son call his mom, who we've never met before, but suddenly is in the picture and not an eyebrow raised. It's just another famous person that they pull in to be his mom,
Okay.
and they're like abuela, and I'm like, that's not Italian for grandma. I was like, what happened here?
But like. It could be something because of Letty,
It could be, but I think it's his mom.
Still, maybe that's just
whatever.
The word they use. I understand why you're asking the question. I do. I'm trying to think of solutions, and that's the solution that came to
I
mind.
don't know why I'm trying to piece this together. I don't know why I'm trying to make it make sense. It doesn't need to be cohesive. I mean, this is a movie where a man pushed a missile with his hand. Just pushed it.
Beautiful.
You're talking about with the rock?
Yeah.
Drag the torpedo?
Yeah. It's good.
We left sanity behind when Han was still alive. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. Just see it. Have some fun. Get some popcorn. It's a popcorn movie.
Okay.
It
sounds like it.
It's just I can't. I'm excited. I'm excited for you to see it.
Nelson, what are you consuming?
I watched, I think I told you about this, is A Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's a remake from quite some time ago. Anthony, have you seen it? You haven't. I
haven't. I wanted to.
Watch.
I have not seen it.
It's a fun watch. Henry Cavill shines, Alicia Vikander shines. Great cast. It's a Guy Ritchie film as well, so I'm surprised you guys haven't seen it. Yeah. Hugh Grant's in it. Great cast.
Then it must be.
Yeah. It starts pretty slow, like the first 5 minutes, and then it just a bullet train to the end. And
nice.
They do really well. It's really fast. It's entertaining. It's just an action movie. It takes all the cliches from a spy movie and puts it all together. It has the convenience of being a remake, so there's some things that they just reuse. I will say it wasn't clean. As in, like, there's a lot of stuff that's like kind of plot holes that they just like plug with like bullshit.
Oh, nice.
But it works. They're like, okay, here, that's fine. It takes place during the Cold War, which is always a fun subject, which I like.
That's Al's bread and butter.
It is.
The guy that plays opposite Henry Cavill is...
We don't talk about him anymore.
The guy who plays opposite Henry Cavill.
Was that Armie Hammer?
Yeah.
We don't talk about him anymore.
Yeah, he was good in it.
Hammer Cavill.
Hashtag Hammer Cavill no more.
Yeah. Cavill's gavels.
That's right. You know the story with Armie, right?
Yeah.
We used to be...
Do we, though? Do we know?
He's out in Puerto Rico, Cuba?
I have no idea.
With his family, hiding. I guess that's...
I think he's in hiding, but I don't know.
He's in hiding. Did he eat somebody?
Undetermined.
Okay.
I heard that, and I was like...
Unclear.
Undetermined.
He certainly wants to.
Sure.
Which is odd. Alicia Vikander was...
What if you just find it? Nelson's like, and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
I think this is generally probably a pro Alicia Vikander podcast. Yeah. We're huge fans of Ex Machina. I don't know if you've seen that.
No,
that was her first feature role.
Okay,
I definitely watched that.
Okay,
we're huge fans of Alex Garland here.
Film.
Okay,
and that was his first movie that he wrote and directed, at least that anyone knows about officially. But love that movie. It's basically just Alicia Vikander, Donald Gleason, and Oscar Isaac, and that's it.
Okay, interesting. I'll check it out.
Yeah, good movie.
I really just know her from Bourne, that last Bourne movie. I think that's the first thing I saw her in.
I have not seen any of them past the second one. So
another fun.
Yeah, I loved the books, and they were a betrayal of the... I just couldn't keep watching them anymore.
And I know she was in a Lara Croft movie.
She was in the remake.
I don't know if it did well. I heard it didn't, but...
I saw that one on a plane, so it's definitely... I probably would rate it multiple points over what it actually is.
Okay.
Yeah. She won an Oscar, didn't she, for the Danish Girl? I think she won.
Thank you. I was like... That's exactly what I was trying to look up. I was like, I'm pretty sure she won. She took home the Golden Boy, but I don't know for what it was.
She was definitely nominated. I think she won.
Let's find out.
But yeah, no.
Why do I have such a hard time navigating IMDb?
This is a
running thing on this.
I was going to say, this has been a continuing problem for you.
Oh, she's a fellow 88 child. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Anyway, Man from U.N.C.L.E. Still, Al, you saw that.
I did not.
I thought you...
No, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh no, the jokes aren't that funny. The movie is not going to be very good. But I have actually weirdly heard that it's developed a quiet cult following, actually, from what I understand. So I might get around to it one of these years.
Let's put it on the list, because I'm definitely...
When we have you back on the show 5 years from now, I'll say, Nelson, there's a movie you recommended, and I watched it, and you're going to be like, I don't know what that is.
I've never seen this
movie. I have no idea what the movie is.
My man.
It's quite an old movie. I want to say it's 3-4 years old. Simple Favor.
Oh, I think it's older than that. It's probably, was it 2016 or something like that?
2015.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Cool.
Fun movie.
All right, I'll check that out. Back to you, Al.
Okay. So I watched probably an underwatched movie, I would say. Anthony, we like Taika Waititi here, right?
Yeah.
Nelson? Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you heard of The Hunt for the Wilder People?
Yes.
And I'm talking about before my mom mentioned it to you a week and a half ago.
Yes. She had mentioned it, and the name of the movie was familiar, and then she explained it, and then the plot was more familiar, but I don't... when did it come out?
I believe this was the first movie he made after What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay.
Before his, mainstream American success, I believe. It's 2015, 2016, something like that. Have you heard of this one?
I've vaguely heard of this.
I think I probably knew it when I looked him up, like when he took over the Thor franchise, but I didn't know anything about this one. And was looking for something to watch a couple weeks ago, and saw this, threw it on, and it is definitely a Taika Waititi.
Sold.
Yeah, it's it's a bittersweet type of movie, right? Like he's always going to have some feels and some funny. It's about finding the balance between those things, and it's as unlikely a star duo as you will find in Sam Neill and that kid from Deadpool 2 before he was in Deadpool 2, and I don't know. It was a fun watch. It's definitely worth checking out. It's about these two guys, this guy and this teenager who him and his wife had adopted, or fostered rather, going on the run in the hills of New Zealand from the law because they've become fugitives.
I'm watching the trailers playing right now in it silently, but I never pieced it together until watching the trailer quietly that his style has a lot of similarities. It's weird to say so. It's very similar to Wes Anderson's like shooting, but stylistically, even though Wes Anderson does a lot of symmetry, I feel like his is asymmetrical, but it's still for some reason like it kind of matches up to like the way that he frames his shots. I don't know how, I'm not explaining it well, but I feel like if you watch it side by side, and the only reason I can say this is I had just saw the new trailer for the new Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that
was, in my mind.
I didn't know that was coming out until I saw the trailer before Guardians.
And then I was like watching this. It's like there's something about this that is oddly familiar, and that's where that I feel like there's something there. I don't know. I'm not artistic enough with directing and angles and all that stuff to know what it is, but there's something there.
I don't know the terminology, but what it is the framing and the lighting has the effect of these are people inside of a like dollhouse, because that's what all of the Wes Anderson stuff is, and I think that Waititi does a bit of that too.
Yeah, a lot of like the various like zoom effects too, and the swiping. Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, I would watch this. I will watch anything that he does at this point because I find everything that I've watched from him or that revolves around him has been just really just great.
Yeah,
and like, he's only a movie about Hitler Youth work.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. He's only in it for like 2 minutes. He has a little role, but
sure,
it's unmistakably one of his movies. If I didn't know it was him, I would have figured it out after about 8 minutes. And that's even without the fact that everyone had very heavy New Zealand accents.
Sure.
It's a nice watch. I would recommend it. It's a feel good watch.
Nice. Very cool. I started a new show. So last week we had watched Ted Lasso, and we wanted more. We wanted more feel goody show to watch, and realized that show Platonic had a few episodes that had been released.
Yes, I would like to watch that. I have not had the opportunity yet.
Really good. Apple TV so far, with all of the things that I've chosen to watch on it, there's nothing that has been amiss for me that I've sat down to actually start watching.
Despite seeming to have a laughable start to its platform, it's probably neck and neck with HBO right now as far as streamers.
They are absolutely doing quality over quantity, though.
Which I very much want out of these things. If I'm going to pay for it, I want you to give me shit that's good.
I agree, but I just say it's something pretty fun because Neighbors was a fun movie, very entertaining, great chemistry between Seth Rogen and Rose. Is it Byrne?
I'm assuming it's Byrne, but maybe they do a weird Australian thing where she's from. I don't know.
Rose Byrne. Great chemistry. They were so good in that movie together, so it just makes sense. Hey, let's pair them up again. Let's do a Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson. You are a duo that works really well, and that's what's going on here. But it's just in a longer format, a show, 30-ish minute episodes, I think, just really, or however long they need to be, which again, I appreciate, like whatever the story is. There's nothing groundbreaking about what they're doing. It's just a fun watch, and their chemistry makes it work. And she's really funny. Yeah. And like I'm kind of he's funny too. Seth Rogen's funny too, but I feel like he's always been better at playing the secondary funny person in the room, and they're like Rose Byrne takes the spotlight like more so. I feel, even though it's like definitely like it's I feel like it's meant to be kind of like an equal leads type show. I feel that maybe it weights a little bit more towards her in a good way, and he can kind of settle back because his remarks on the side or as we fade off screen or do something like that's where he shines, I find. And it's been really fun. It's just the situations they get themselves into, just nonsense. It's a silly premise. It's just a good comedy. It's just fun to watch. So I recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that one out. I saw trailers for it a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I'll probably get around to that for sure. So, I'm definitely looking forward to getting to that one.
As things are coming to an end, perfect timing. You'll have a little bit of a backlog of episodes you can get to and catch up on. Yeah,
with Ted Lasso ending and with Succession ending, I suddenly found myself, and I'm nearing the conclusion of Jedi Survivor, so I'm having some space open up soon for entertainment.
Nice. More on Ted Lasso next week when Al's finished it and everybody else has had the chance to finish the series.
I really tried to finish it, but also it's probably for the best that we don't deeply dive into the finale with Nelson here since he hasn't had a chance to watch it. So
I am so envious that you get to watch all of it, though.
You should. That's what I did last year. I binged the whole first season, and the second season I think it like just ended maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes or whatever, and I watched like all of that, and we were doing the shows. I remember it was when Dominic was out of town, because I remember I was going to his apartment, watching the episode, and then we would jump right on and record. Like, it was watching like that and Book of Boba Fett were like both like running.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna just binge it all once it comes out.
What else are you consuming, Nelson?
I saw an interesting movie on Prime. It was one of those top 10 rated, 4.2 stars. Memory with Liam Neeson.
Okay.
One of his newest movies.
They did that one a while back.
It may have been.
I listened to this podcast. I've talked about it on the show before, but I don't know if I've told you about it. Called Cinephobe.
Yep.
And they did Liam Neeson month along with like a bunch of other times that had Liam Neeson's on there, and Memory was one of them. I don't really remember it because at this point they've all blurred together because they've done like 8 Liam Neeson movies. But just you mentioning it just reminded me of like the Liam Neeson run that they went on. But please refresh my memory because I don't remember which one that one was.
Yes, in this one he's a hitman.
That's
takes place in El Paso.
That's right. Okay.
It was a hard watch.
Hey, a second. I have a specific question because they make this joke a bunch on the show after having seen it. Is that the one where he's got like the ill brother and he says something about remembering when the Bucks drafted Lou Alcindor or something like that? Yeah. They make a joke about that all the time. Yeah. They think like the Phoenix Suns were supposed to win the lottery or something like that.
Yes.
And he says, and then the Bucks got goddamn Lou Alcindor. Yeah. They make that joke all the time on Cinephobe, and I forgot which of the Liam Neeson movies it was from.
It's not that he's just sick. He has like advanced Alzheimer's. They say it outright.
Yeah.
That he's like terrible at memory, doesn't know anything. And he's like, do you remember this? He's like, makes no attempt. He's so sick. And
so they both have memory issues.
Yes,
I forgot that they both have the same thing. Okay.
I won't give any spoilers, but he also is on. He has onset, and he's Liam Neeson. He gives it his all. He did it all in that little stretch where he was like on a train, on a plane. He was doing everything. In this one, he's in El Paso.
Would you kill him on a train? Would you kill him on a plane?
Exactly.
I would not kill him, Sam. I am.
Not a great supporting cast. The acting is... It was a hard watch. I was watching it on the train to the city the other day. I was like, I just want to just watch something and numb my brain. And I was like, hey, it seems like a good watch. 4.2 out of 5 on Prime. I would not rate it anywhere close to that. Maybe a 2.5.
Negative Thuckles?
Yeah, negative Thuckles for sure.
Brutal.
Don't watch it.
I mean, it's a shame.
You're gonna save yourself time.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at like a catalog of his movies, and it's just like they were all like it's funny, like it's like kind of like they're all the same movie, and it's just, I mean, they're clearly
on a train.
Still raking in cash.
It's on a plane.
We got Black Light, Last Seen Alive.
They definitely did
Ice Road
Black Light on the show as well.
Honest Thief.
Ice Road on the show. They did Honest Thief, They loved Honest
Fortress?
Thief.
The Marksman? Oh, this is more like this. This is not necessarily his movie. Sorry, 1 second. Where else we got? Where you at, Liam Neeson's? Got the Liam Neeson's, though.
So the thing was, was it like Guillaume like Colsera or something like that was the name of the director who did like half of those movies.
Okay.
And those ones are okay. But whoever's done all those other movies, I can't. Some of them look so painful. I can't.
That very first one, I think it was the plane one, came out for the.
I liked Nonstop.
I did like that movie.
The very end
the wolves.
That was the Gray.
The Gray.
The Nonstop was really good. The end unravels a bit, but up until like the final 8 minutes of the movie, I actually really enjoyed that one. I've watched it a few times. Like I liked it that much. So
the train one is not great.
I couldn't bring myself to watch that one.
The graphics, not it. Like they're on train, but like there's not so much you need to do. It's a train.
What was that one called? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Didn't it have what's his name? The guy from didn't they have Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad / Better Call Saul?
Maybe.
Jonathan Banks.
Banks.
I think it did.
How many Taken movies are there?
3.
3 times. Taken 3 times?
The first one, his daughter was taken.
Uh-huh.
And the second one, him and his ex-wife were taken.
Oh, he was taken. Interesting.
Yes. And then the third one, spoiler alert, the ex-wife was killed. He gets framed for it.
Twist. Wait. So who's taken?
Her life.
Oh.
Nice.
That's thinking outside the box.
The commuter.
The commuter, that's right. All right. So don't watch Memory.
No.
All right.
You want to save yourself some time?
All right.
Don't
I have another thing. So I have really appreciated, and we were just talking about it a minute or two ago, I've really appreciated Apple TV's TV. Their movies maybe haven't been quite as strong. I watched a movie that I knew was going to be bad, but that I still wanted to see, that came out like a month or so ago now. I watched Ghosted with Chris Evans and Ana de Armas.
Yeah.
And it's not good. It's not a good movie.
Sure.
Doesn't mean it's not enjoyable.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you didn't think it was going to be a good movie, did you?
No, God, no.
Okay.
It was worse in some ways than I anticipated, but
it's a watch.
Yeah, it's a watch. It's entertaining. It has its
moments. Throw a movie on.
It's a nice, easy, kind of. It's like part like buddy action movie and also part like rom-com. So I don't know. It was an entertaining watch. It's got some flaws, but some of the action sequences are legitimately pretty good, and there are some laughs to be had. And so
I still want to see it. It looked silly.
Yeah, it's a Friday night. I want to watch a movie. I definitely don't want to get up and leave my house. I want something light and easy to watch, and you'll have a couple of laughs, and it'll be great.
I'm very interested in watching that Tetris movie.
Yeah, I mean, I like Taron Egerton, and we'll see.
I just thought of something that I watched because it was a while ago, and I forgot all about it. But the Ed Sheeran documentary on Disney Plus, it's like a 4-part, I think. Like, oh my god, it's incredible. It's
really
he is incredibly talented. His story is wonderful. His personality is just it's heavy. It's really heavy stuff, but I would encourage you if you're in the mood for something like that, more biopic type thing of like a snapshot of his like life plus some of the longer things around it. I really, really worth the time. Like, blown away.
Really?
Can't stop listening to his music. Like, really good. I can't. It's excellent. Could not recommend any more than that. It's just go for it.
Interesting.
Even if you're not a fan, I think.
Yeah, I'm not usually like a huge documentary person.
It's very well put together.
Okay.
I've definitely seen some. The documentaries are easy ones for me to turn off when they start to get repetitive, or it feels like you started making the thing but didn't maybe get all the answers to what you were trying to do. So like we're kind of it's just conjecture, and then it's like, when is it really a documentary at that point? And like those are that I don't want to waste my time with that. This was really good. This was about this person in this time of his life and like what he's going through. How like you see some of his process for writing music. You see how extraordinarily talented he is, and how it truly is like the thing that he uses to get through. Like he uses it when he's happy, he uses it when he's sad, and like it just drives him. And it's incredible. Like all of the stuff that he goes through in the course of this year that it covers. And how it ends up turning back into all of these songs that are on his latest album. Like it's, watch it if you have the time. It is. I was blown away.
Interesting. Nelson?
On documentaries, I saw one maybe 2-3 weeks ago. It was actually a rewatch. I was showing my girlfriend Linda for the first time. Blackfish.
Okay. Yeah, it's one about SeaWorld or whatever.
It's
about SeaWorld, yeah.
Haven't seen it, actively avoided it because I was like,
it is quite of a like one of those darker documentaries. Yeah. I'll be honest, I enjoyed it just because it was like I like fish, not to eat. Like are they like cool to live? Orcas are not really fish; they're mammals. We'll say that, but it was I like
fish. That's the pull quote from the episode. If we named episodes after something that was said on it. That's the one.
It was a fun watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it as a documentary. Like I'm not a huge documentary fan. So the last 2 documentaries I've seen are the Beatles documentary, and the last time I saw Blackfish probably like 7 years ago.
Sure.
So not a big documentary guy, but I think it's a well worth it watch. You learn a little bit. It's short. I want to say it's like just over an hour, so it's not crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. The only documentary that really like caught my attention was that one that OJ Made in America.
Oh yeah, I heard that was.
And that one was like fucking 7 hours long, but it was really, really interesting stuff. It was mostly just because I was gravitated towards. I've always wanted to like know more about that story. It just wasn't something I was going to like go like read a ton of stuff about, and. I don't know, I was as much caught up in how the story was told, which I knew ahead of time, considering it was like there's substantial portions of it that aren't even really about him necessarily, but then they keep coming back to that and why like it all matters basically.
Okay.
It was a really compelling story and how it was told.
I would like to check that out. That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, it came out 6 or 7 years ago, something like that.
Do you have any memory of watching the trials at all?
I remember a little bit of the civil trial. I was too young to really remember the actual trial. I was 4 years old or 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, what was so interesting about this was that so much of it is about him as a college football player and as an NFL player and as a movie star. And when things started to go like sideways in his life, and then the murder, and then the trial. So you spend so much time learning. Like I really knew almost nothing about all of that stuff. Like I knew he was a star player, but like that's it. Like, it was literally just enough to say he was a star player.
Yeah, he was huge. It was like a very close to like the height of his fame, right?
But to understand like how important he was like culturally or like at least from like a fandom standpoint of like fans of football and everything like that and acting like his mark in acting commercials and all that stuff. Like I didn't really actually have an appreciation for all that.
Well, what is that one on?
It was an ESPN documentary, so it's probably available on ESPN Plus.
Cool.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd like to. Nice. I feel like there's enough things. I've consumed other stuff, but I know we're going to talk a little bit about Jedi Survivor. So anybody have anything else they want to mention for consumption?
No, that's the last thing for me as well, so
I'm good.
All right. So definitely been consuming some Jedi Survivor. I find when I was telling Al this the other day, I'm not playing. I don't play that often, but when I do, I've been managing to find like an hour plus pocket of time to sit down, which I feel like you really need that amount of time because otherwise you might not make any progress. Yeah. But once I do not want to put that game down. after I pick it up. It's so much fun. There's just always something. It's like, ooh, what's over there? Ooh, what's over there? Ooh, what's over there? Ooh, what's the storyline? There's just constant. There's just constantly something to do. I just cannot even fathom, like, if you told me this existed, like if it was already out, right? Like you understood and I hadn't touched it yet. And like you were trying to explain to me how it compares to the previous game as far as like, it's just, how did they do this? How did they make it? It's a perfect sequel. It is everything.
How did they take
love.
this fantastic game and just make it more?
Yes, more. And how did they do that? I mean, granted, they gave you a cross guard, but how did they do this? I mean, seriously, like from just more collectibles, more move sets, more powers, like all of it, much more to explore, and like in such a way that it doesn't feel daunting. There are games that are big that make me go, I don't even want to start it. That just feels like too much.
Yeah.
Where this is like, I'll you know what I'm going to do today? How much time do I have? I've got about an hour. I'm going to go in this cave instead of going on the next main mission. And then like 2.5 hours passed, and I was like, "What did I do?" It's just chaos. It's just like it really everything you do in that game, it feels like you're actually progressing. Like every little fight you get into, nothing's wasted. You're building up experience to unlock perks, or you're discovering something new, whether it's like something to wear or something to customize, or like new story beats, or like little force echoes that tell in between stories. It's like, it's bonkers. There's so much stuff. There's so much content in that game.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how they pulled it off in the time that they did.
Yeah, it feels like when you look at this game versus so many of the other games, especially these ones that are having these really long development cycles, and it's like, what have you been spending all your time on? That this game took one that was a pretty like stripped down game, all things considered, at least like with the benefit of hindsight. Like it didn't exactly feel small when Jedi Fallen Order came out, but like it like compared to this, it feels like it's pretty lo-fi.
Yeah, and it feels like that entire game fits in one of the planets of this game.
Yeah, and it's not really just size either. Like it's depth of detail as well.
I think that for all of that.
I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and on top of all of that, like they added a whole slew of characters. Like in the first game, you basically have your 2 that becomes 3 like crew members. In this, you have all of them plus like a literal litany of people who you can stumble upon across your journeys across the main hub planet, who then come back to the bar and just hang out there, and there's conversations with all of them. They give you little assignments to do. You can do them or not do them. There's almost always you're going to want to, because you get real rewards from most of them. And sometimes it's you find another character who comes back and will ultimately give you another mission. Or you go do some big fight that you get a big experience boost or a force boost or a life boost. Like it's not just a customizable thing. Like sometimes it's that too, but a lot of times you're getting like real legitimate, like you're powering up your character and all that stuff. So, or it's unlocks a new area that you hadn't been to yet, or you go back to an area you wouldn't have ever gone back to because you've already explored it and you found, oh, there's other things I could have gone and done here that I didn't even realize were still available to me to do. And just the whole depth of those conversations, like, make you, I mean, it's not you're falling in love with every single one of these like tertiary characters, but there's enough there that there's going to be someone for everyone to like want to talk to and hear from and all that stuff. And hearing some of their stories go through, I mean, to me, there's one clear-cut best character in the game. Anthony, I suspect that you feel the same way I do. It's Scuba Stev, who's definitely not a ripoff of Scuba Steve.
No.
And is also definitely a giant talking mollusk. And that's all. He's the best character in the game. I don't think there's an argument, right?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
He's this little guy. He's a fisher. You meet him, and when you're just out exploring Kobo, you'll come across a body of water, and there he is, and he's fishing. And you go and talk to him, and he continues on. Over the course of this entire game, he's been telling you a story about this adventure he went on in outer space where he was kind of sort of basically kidnapped by a pirate. And it's kind of like the story from The Princess Bride where, like,
nice.
Wesley goes with the Dread Pirate Roberts. It's kind of like that, but, like, somehow darker and more depressing than that. He tells you little snippets, and each time you talk to him, he catches a new fish, and you bring it back to your aquarium and all that. And he's even on Jeddah, and there's one little puddle of water in Jeddah, and you'll even find him there one time.
Amazing.
Everywhere else you find him is on Koba, but you'll even find him on Jeddah one time, and it's I didn't even know there was water on this planet.
That's great.
But I don't know. It's just it's so much fun. The first game had a much bigger, grander story. This is a much more focused, smaller story. The Empire really kind of takes a backseat to what's going on here, and this takes on the character. It's reflections of things that happened in the High Republic versus now, uncovering the secret and kind of showing how that time of decadence led to what we would see would be the fall of the Republic in the prequel stories. You get kind of echoes of that in this.
That's pretty cool.
So, yes. Yeah, that was intentional. That was deliberate. I don't know, going from the 2 stances to 5 stances, you can only carry 2 at a time, but anytime you go to a save spot, you can swap out.
That's amazing. I'm so much in love. I haven't yet to play it. The customizable size of this game compared to the first one is insane. And not just stands and lightsaber. But the first one was what? A few ponchos you could wear and the color of your lightsaber. Yeah. And this one, what I've seen is you can really make this character very unique to how you want to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's amazing.
As far as how you want to present yourself, that's up for a fair amount of it as well. But even within the stances, they materially affect your gameplay.
That's awesome.
Anthony's big on the double bladed and the blaster. I think the blaster is also probably the most useful, versatile one as well. But my other one has been mostly the crossguard one, and it's a dramatically different playstyle than the blaster. It's a dramatically different playstyle even than just a regular single-bladed lightsaber.
Really?
Each one offers you a legitimately. There are pros and cons. Technically, any of them can be used for any situation, but there are situations you find one is much more useful than the other, and it really just I find myself to be more patient, kind of get into the flow of the battle and let it come to you, and then a lot of counter striking. So it took me a while to get used to how slow the crossguard was, but it's so powerful that that plays well to that style for me. Where I'm even using it in duels, where I usually try to be much quicker and lighter on my feet, because I don't want to get caught, with my hand in the cookie jar, so to say.
Yeah,
because then you get your ass kicked. And I've found myself actually starting to gravitate more towards this, where it's much more about just keep blocking, just keep jumping around, and eventually you're going to hit him with a 1-2 that's going to leave him staggered. And it's it couldn't be any more different than how I played with my dueling in the first game.
Do you feel like this game is much longer than the first one?
Yeah, the first game was probably a 20-ish hour game.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the second time through it, or third time through, I think it felt shorter because I know where to go. So I don't know exactly.
Sure. This one I was playing a little bit on Monday night, and I'm probably in the very early 30s of hours now.
Oh, wow.
And I'm probably 75 to 80% done, I would guess. I mean, I don't know how the percentage is measured, if it's as to accessing and doing everything, or if it's more story intensive. I don't know how the percentage is calculated.
Okay.
It does feel like the main bent of the story is almost done, but I have this sneaking suspicion that there's about to be a left-hand turn after all this, where it's it would seem like the main story is concluding, and maybe it is, and we're going to find that there's a secret third act that we weren't quite prepared for.
Love it.
That's my suspicion. I will say, without too much of a spoiler, just to describe and characterize what I'm doing, Anthony had talked to you about how I had explored this area that I thought was going to be very small, that had been gated by something, and I found that I had to climb this massive mountain.
Yep. I'm assuming that's the thing that you ended up with the door technician guy, right?
Yes, that's where Rick.
I did the exact same thing that you're about to describe.
Yes,
including, I can't go any further, and there's more to go.
So that's where the story takes you back to eventually is
Okay.
like this. It's not just more area to explore. Like this is a critical mission like pathway,
Cool.
and you climb to the top of the mountain, and then you're in this floating observatory above the sky. And as you climb it, there's a massive aerial battle happening as you like ascend to this area. Like you just get there,
awesome.
and there's a massive fight between the Empire and the Bedlam Raiders, who are the main antagonists. The whole thing. As you're like jumping from platforms, and there's just like TIE fighters and X-wings like shooting each other around you, and then you jump, and there's like a whole bunch of raiders, and then you jump, and then there's a whole bunch of stormtroopers, and you're just like mowing these people down as there is like a full-blown space battle happening around you.
That's pretty awesome.
And
Epic.
last time I played, I saved before. I'm assuming there's going to be a big old fight coming up. So,
So on that exact thing, like just to give you like an idea of like how much more there is in this game. So I did something very similar where I just picked up the side quest to find the fisherman, which is what is his name? Scuba Stev. Scuba Stev. To find him, you find him like, okay, cool. And I was like, well, now that I'm back here, let me just keep going and see what else. It looks like I was going to be going up, cresting a hill and finding some stuff. But then, like Al explained, you go and you go and you go and you go and you get up top and you're like, oh my God, there's this entire Imperial base up here. And then you get into this like really awesome like wave battle of like a bunch of stormtroopers, and then stormtroopers plus shock troopers, and then now we're gonna layer on this and this and this, and like finally get through the whole thing. I'm like, what in the world just happened? They take an elevator, it goes even higher, and you get, and like in this whole process, you unlock something that BD1, a traversal mechanic, by just being over there. That you unlock.
Well, that is like literally like story critical. Like you, at a certain point, you won't be able to advance the story anymore if you haven't unlocked this.
Right. So, but like the fact that you can get it ahead of time is really interesting.
Yeah.
If you just go up there, so like you unlock that. So all right, going through, and like now I'm like I spent so much time and I've gone through this whole thing and I beat them all. I go as far as I can, and it's like there's an elevator to take me all the way back down the mountain because I can't go any further because I don't have whatever that next thing is that I need. So I go all the way down the mountain and I'm like, okay, let me cross this. There's a place over there I haven't gone to yet. It seems like it's on my way out. So I cross, I fight a few people, I unlock a shortcut that's going to take me to the entrance to this area that I started at. I was like, oh, what's this little building? And I pull a door away and I jump down into it. And now I'm in this underground cave that just goes on for miles. And there's like 4 bosses under it. There's like I was like, oh, how long can this take? And I dive in there, and I'm in there for I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, and like I've gained like 8 experience points just from this one run alone, and like it was insane. Like new mechanics in there, like how to like break different types of doors. It was wild. And then on top of all that, the stuff that you could find in there was another thing. I found like a slicing ability. So like BD can now slice a different type of droid. I found a bunch of lightsaber parts for customization. And then they have these, I think they're called force shards now, where force tears, where you go and you activate it and it just sucks you into basically like a mini game where like, it might be like a battle of like you have to survive killing 100 enemies in this wave of enemies that are coming through. Or
it's a specific challenge, like you can only use this stance of lightsaber and you have to kill however many enemies or how many waves, or there's the traversal ones where it's like...
That's what this was. This was my first parkour one where it's like...
Oh, that was the first one you did?
Take all of the tools that you've learned. And I was like, okay. And like, you're like zipping from line to line. You're doing this like dash through thing. It's insane. And then I actually discovered in this that you could slow your traversal on the line. I never actually had to do it before. I didn't realize that you could pull the trigger and you could slow down while you're like zip lining. And I was like,
I rarely slow. I find myself often speeding up because you can speed it too.
I didn't know you could speed it. That actually probably would have been really helpful.
When you like jump and you have to like go back against the grain and there's like electricity chasing you, it's helpful to go faster.
Yeah,
so
the
left trigger slows you and the right trigger.
I didn't even cross my mind to try the other trigger. I was like, he's going fast enough. But yeah, it's insane. And like any one of these things that they did, like could have been a nice layer on into the next game, right? Like it's like, oh, it's still as linear. Like the last one had a little bit of freedom, but I feel like it was mostly a linear game. Basically. And it was like they could have layered on a bunch more of things to find and cosmetics. And that would have been like, okay, cool. That's more of the same. Still great game, maybe a few, but they didn't do that. They expanded the world in such a way where you could go explore a whole bunch of different things before you go onto your main missions. They made it so that there is a million different things like to do. Like you could get all sorts of lightsaber, not just lightsaber parts to build your lightsaber, but like various materials and paints, and like you could change all aspects of the like. You could really customize. I haven't even gotten into customizing BD because it's overwhelming. But like they didn't need to do that, and then it's like facial hair, and it's not just a poncho anymore. It's like various versions of clothes, and now the clothes also have colors and materials that you could swap. I'm like, what is? And like that's just the cosmetic stuff, and there's like a whole build your garden on top of this with all the seeds that you find in the world, or like collect all these fish and put them in a fish, like things that I don't like to do that. That's not my type of gameplay, but for anybody that's interested in it, like it's there. And then you have this massive world, and you have just these insane number of the skill trees have expanded because now there's a skill tree for each stance. There's a skill tree for just like survival, and then a skill tree for force. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff to pump points into.
And they added a bunch of force powers too, because you would have thought
awesome.
Last time it was like slow, push, pull. Mm-hmm. You get those right off the beginning, although slow takes on a very different type. It's considered like the ultimate thing. You have to like charge a meter to use it. Okay. But it's actually much more useful. I rarely used it in the first game because I found it to be not super useful. But now you have confusion, which you can use in positive or combat ways. You can use it to tame animals, to use for mounts, or you can use it in combat, which is super useful, especially once you get to higher levels where like you're not just fighting something that's like a Wampa, you're fighting like 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have the 2 of you kill the 3rd one for me, and then I'm going to fight 2 of you.
And so like now you're talking about that. Now there's also sometimes you're in a story beat where you have one of the other characters is with you, and you can actively tell them to attack something. And you could double team like a giant enemy. Yeah,
and they either have like one that does a bunch of damage, or one that stuns them, or one that like holds them still so you can go after attack them. And like, you get some cool animated combos when you like take down one of like the bigger enemies between the 2 of you or whatever. And it's only limited sections in the game. Actually, that's probably my one slight criticism. I wish there was a little bit more of that where you could use, because it's really 2 characters that like kind of depending on which mission you're doing. And they also affect traversal as well, where like if you're like navigating a particular section, you can have them like set a point for you to anchor that you can use your ascension cable for, or like they can repair something that's broken.
They gave you a grappling hook. That's another thing they did. Once you add a grappling hook to a game, that's just another level.
Although to be fair, you can only use it on like designated spots, which I wish they were a little bit more liberal with that.
Just wait till the 3rd one.
It's gonna be ziplining everywhere like Spider-Man.
Wherever you want to go. Traversal is just whatever you want it to be. I don't know. It's bonkers. There was so. I can't believe that they were able to get all of this stuff into this sequel. And
it's polished. It's much more polished than the first one was. Like the traversal stuff, like sometimes you would just like fall off of a thing because it wasn't like a clean like sinking. Mm-hmm. I rarely run into that now. Okay. And like the way that they've so you have the climb, you have the wall run, you have the double jump that are all like ported over from that, but now you add in the ascension cable. You have like some push and pull stuff, and as well as this thing like he talked about, this dash that you can use both in the air as well as through gated sections. So some of these traversal things are like incredibly complex, but they feel like fun challenging, not like Mario 64 challenging where you're just falling off of a ledge because of the pixels. Mm-hmm. On top of that, where like they actually come up with some really cool did you do the second trip to Jeddah, Anthony?
Yes.
So you where you go try and get Brother Armaias and all that?
Yeah, where you zipping through
So the sequence after that, when you get the thing to do the dash through the gates, that is one of the coolest sequences. I think I texted you after that, and I didn't want to tell you
I had a feeling that's what you were talking about.
It was one of because it's not just that you have to link all of these together. You're doing it in the middle of, you can't actually fight, but you're under attack. So it's you actually get that pulse pumping, frenetic, you're doing it not just because, oh, I want to get from here to there. It's you're trying to escape for your life, and you have to do it while there's like shit shooting at you, and there's like portals being opened for you that you have to like hit the mark on, otherwise you fall and die. Like,
Okay.
it was one of the coolest sequences that I've been a part of in any of these games that have nothing to do with like combat or any of that. It was just purely trying to get from one point to another to save your life.
Definitely a moment of, oh, that's what this console can do.
Yes.
Like
yes.
where you're like, oh, you couldn't do this before.
No,
Not
yeah,
like
the
this.
the
Not this
processing
cleanly.
power to execute this and make it in a way that was like cinematic.
Because it wasn't. I think that's the most wild thing about what Al's talking about, and you'll get there eventually. Is that it feel like it could easily have been a cutscene with QuickTime events, but no, you have complete control over the character. You can move him,
awesome.
You could jump him through things. You have to reconnect to walls and run and jump and that. It's like you have to act. You're actively trying to do the thing. I mean, I screwed up a few times because you have to like find where it is that you're trying to go. And it goes on for a while. And
there was one time like the portal like was not immediately apparent to me, so I kept falling at that spot because I like couldn't see it floating because there's gunfire and smoke and all that stuff around you. And then after all that, like you at the end, like you have to do some kind of like force puzzling to like conclude the fight because it's a giant machine essentially that's trying to take you down. It's like
so cool. What a great game! I just want to play more of it.
Yes.
And anything else on Survivor? Any questions, Nelson?
No, I'm just super excited to play it.
Awesome.
Well, Nelson's moving soon, so I think he's waiting until he gets settled.
Yeah.
To
just immerse myself in it.
Nice. I love it. All right. Well, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, released in 2023, rated PG-13 with a 2-hour and 30-minute runtime. Your IMDb synopsis. Still reeling from the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill rallies his team to defend the universe and one of their own. A mission that could mean the end of the Guardians, if not successful. Fair enough. Let's just jump right in with some Toot-length reviews. Al, you want to kick us off?
A pitch-perfect ending to the trilogy, alternately heartbreaking and heartwarming, and our final proof that found family can be just as important as birth family, as we see our heroes fly away together into the forever and beautiful sky. 9 out of 10.
Nice. Nelson?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 once again pulls the team together, but this time hits you in the feels using a trash panda while simultaneously posturing the use of a couch. 8.75 out of 10.
8.75.
Amazing. I like that you both went very deep in your. I respect it. I tend to go super short one-liner. All the right heart and all the weird places. 8 out of 10. Really, I mean, this whole series has been a phenomenon from the start. I was reminiscing about seeing the first one in theaters back when I lived in Hoboken. I don't know if we ever went to that theater with me that was over there, but
I don't think I ever went with you when you lived in Hoboken.
It was just like a random middle of the week. A couple of friends were over. We had some dinner. We were like, let's go see a movie. This is out. We should see this. We see all the other Marvel movies. Why not? And we go to see it. I'm like, oh no, this might be one of the best, if not the best one right now. And I was like, where did that come from? And it's just been riding that ever since. It's like this. It came out of nowhere. It's so well scripted. The performances are great. The chemistry, which is key in something like this with an ensemble cast, is just so strong, so witty. They have a lot of freedom, I think, because people aren't familiar, myself included, with like the source material. And I don't know, man. They just shaped it in such an incredible way that like it feels more like the MCU than a lot of the MCU does.
Yeah, I think these movies shouldn't really work because there isn't that sort of appeal. Like, you are going to get so many people in the doors, and not just in the doors. I'm not even talking just with the financial stuff. I'm talking about buy-in when you have a Spider-Man or a Batman movie. when you have something like that, like there is connection to those types of characters that there's people are going to want it to succeed. Now, that may mean they judge with a very harshly critical eye, but people want those things to succeed. You have to match those expectations. There's almost no expectations for this, at least not the first one. And it's why it could have been a commercial flop, even if it was a critical success. And it ended up being both on the force of excellent writing and direction and tremendous performances. And it's not even, we're not talking about like one of the, like a Sorkin-esque script or, what's the name of that guy we've talked about him a million times who wrote like Glengarry Glen Ross and stuff like that. The playwright turned movie writer who I just can't think of his name. Who wrote incredible dialogue, incredible scripts. You don't need that. What there is a fundamental understanding and vision of who these characters are, how they interface with each other, and why we should care about them. Character writing is deeply important writing, even if it's not going to win you Oscars for script. And these movies...
David Mamet.
That's it. These movies... No, I appreciate the interruption. These movies thrive on the back of a clarity of vision of who these characters are, how they'll interact with each other, how and why they'll react to certain things, and what growth and permutations of their interactions that will foment down the line. They've nailed that every step of the way, because I think the first movie is a really good movie. I think the second one is entertaining, but it succeeds because of how well the characters all interact with each other, even though there's a lot of other flaws with that movie that make you overlook it. And this one is the perfect crystallization of all of that, where you're getting them in the best of times, the worst of times, the most direst of stakes, and the lightest of affairs. Like, I love Drax and Mantis together. Anytime they're doing something, whether it's serious or stupid, you've got me hooked. I just want to see what's going to happen next, because it's the stupidest combination, and it works so well. Yeah, every time. And it's because we understand those characters so well. They play off each other so well. And the actors themselves play off each other so well and have such a great and natural or organic chemistry to them.
Why didn't you say you spoke their language? You didn't ask. Blew me away.
Well, even five minutes before that too, like when Nebula is going after Drax and Mantis, but mostly Drax, and Mantis is defending him by saying how stupid he is. He's like, I'm not entirely sure that I appreciate how
this line of defense,
which is from such a heartfelt place that he's willing to accept it, even though he doesn't like it. And he doesn't like it so much because sometimes the truth hurts. He knows that, he's not actually stupid, but he does and says a lot of stupid shit.
Oh man, yeah.
Nelson, sorry.
No, you're good. Did you guys see the holiday special?
Yes.
Okay, so Drax and Mantis, amazing.
So good.
Kevin Bacon, great.
Yes, getting drunk and kidnapping Kevin Bacon.
Incredible. What Drax refers to as Candy Cane as a little. You got to keep your little guy. Yeah. Oh my god, it's so ridiculous. So Nelson, how does your what was your mileage with the Guardians of the Galaxy? Like, were you familiar with the property at all before the movies or anything like that, or just kind of went in?
No, I'm not a huge comic book reader, but I do read up when I saw this was coming out. I looked at the cast list, and I knew that Adam Warlock was gonna be a character. I did a small little dig into it.
Sure. I'm
a big MCU guy. I watch almost everything. There's probably very few that I haven't seen. Maybe one or two TV shows. I was a huge fan of Guardians from the very beginning. Al knows this whenever he listens to one of my playlists. He knows it right off the bat.
So Dominic had a barbecue 2 weeks ago, and Nelson put it on, and the first 3 songs were all straight off of the first 2 movies, and within an hour or so, I was like, this is literally half of the soundtrack of the first 2 movies. I was like, it's actually uncanny how much of this is directly pulled from those.
They're great. And I think the movies do a great job of using them. And it's not supposed to work. This misfits, but I think James Gunn does a phenomenal job, especially in this last one, trying to cap it off in a very clean way and kind of hand it off because he's not coming back.
Yeah.
So I think he did great. I loved everything about it.
I mean, he set his sights so high, and I think whether it's a feature or a bug in comics lore, and I'm not an expert, before the first movie came out, when they announced the first movie, I literally knew 3 things. I knew the Guardians of the Galaxy existed.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that there was a raccoon in a tree. That's all I knew about them. And so, like, I didn't like have a lot of personal hype. I saw the first trailer, and then I was like, "Oh, this looks like I'm never probably going to get a Mass Effect movie in my life, so I get a Marvel Mass Effect movie." And it turns out, like, in the run-up to that, you find out James Gunn is a massive Mass Effect fan. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can literally see that in the DNA of this movie, and, like, that's the best I'm going to get out of all of this. And then they crush all of it, and there's so many different iterations of the Guardians, I think, in comics, which allows them to both have fairly low expectations and also to get really creative with what stories they want to tell and how they want to tell them. There's so many different versions where Gamora or Nebula or both are part of it, where Yondu's a part of it, where Adam Warlock is a part of it, or Adam Warlock is a villain. We see both of those things in this movie. Mantis being part of it or not, being the situation with Ego or other iterations. I mean, me and Anthony talked about it a bunch in the last 2 years. He played a little bit. I played through the whole thing when I had COVID last year. The Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out, I guess it was like a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic game. And there's so much inspiration from the movies, but it tells a very different story with some pretty crucial differences, even though it's the same core team. It's the same team that we've had in these movies. It's Gamora, Rocket, Drax, and Groot, and like that's it. Mantis kind of flits in and out of the story. And Adam is presented as an antagonist when you first meet him. Then he joins up, and then he goes back to the other side again, and then he joins back up. It's a whole thing, and like that's part of it. They're always ricocheting off of each other, and who's leaving, who's coming, who's dead, who's alive, who's whatever in all of this, and the abiding versions of their stories, no matter what, is that they're gonna be obnoxious, and they're gonna want to make each other rip their hair out of their heads, but they're always going to be there for each other. And that's what this story tells from start to finish, despite all of the different versions of how they interact with each other.
Yeah. So it's so wonderful. To touch on a couple things there. So circling back to the music, I think one of the things that is incredible about it is it would have been easy to just do like, yes, music's going to play a role because Peter left when he'd left and he has this Walkman, and like that's like a big thing, right? Like, so it would have been easy to just like, let's grab a couple songs from this decade and throw them on. Let's grab a couple songs from this decade and throw them on. But that's not what they did. They choose songs that work in each moment. Like it'll be like lyrically, stylistically, it all matches what's happening in the movie. And I don't know, like I can't imagine the research that goes into actually pulling that off properly, because you could feel it. Like when you're listening to the tracks, or like even I mean, Nelson, it sounds like you listen to the playlists. I do it myself, but like I will vividly remember scenes from the movie just from listening to like a song that played during that moment, because like they are so tightly coupled. Like the way that they like that is an art form in itself, and that is, I think they just did an incredible job with that throughout all 3 movies.
I'll say I appreciated that, the way that the music worked in all of them, depending on which needle drop it is and what sequence of the movie it is it a theme? Is it narrative? Mm-hmm. Is it just because we want to hear a cool song? Yeah. Like, and having that versatility, right? Where we have songs.
Is it all of these?
And often it's all of these. I mean, like the first one is really heavily driven by, these are songs that his mom gave him.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. They're all from a certain time period because it's from when she's young, and it's Peter's last connection. So we get a lot of theme and plot essentially in that, right? Or theme and character in that one. The second one, it's less on the character perspective. Like, yeah, it was his last gift from his mother, but that doesn't end up being as important. Really, it's just a device. But we get those songs thematically really fit with what's going on. And then we continue on that one with this as well. We no longer have the connection to character anymore. These are just, we've had a refresh. It's been the first time that Peter's been on Earth in 30 years or whatever. And he just lets, what new things are there? And it's very theme driven and it's character driven, because a lot of it's through Rocket's eyes now, as he's trying to find something to fill the hole in his chest, and Peter's carrying on a certain amount of it. And we get some story drops too, where some of these songs really sync up well to what's going on in the movie itself. I really appreciated the new approach, the third one, because I think it kept things fresh. And plus, I just like a lot of those songs, so that was cool too.
For sure. We talked a lot about like characters and the writing of those characters being obviously incredibly strong. I think what's really awesome is obviously in the first movie we get. I love like it was a more unique origin story, because like we're introducing this ensemble, right? And we like did this whole thing of like, let's pull them together. Who are they individually? Who are they together? Like, how is this going to work? They're all kind of at odds, but like eventually they come together. And in the second one, there's a lot of bickering, right? But especially between Peter and Rocket. And they've clearly they've been working together for a while. They're close. They have like their tight moments, but they also get on each other's nerves. And like that'll be consistent for the next movies as well. But like I think there was something there. It's like, even though this is like we get frustrated and mad with each other, like this is they have become this family. And I think that is so cool. Like then we have that in the third movie. Everybody's a little bit adrift, like because all of the events of the previous, Thanos, all of it, like all of this stuff has happened already, and they're all dealing with the fallout of that in their own way, right? Like some characters are like Mantis, like who am I actually? And Drax maybe doesn't have anything to fight for anymore, but he's still fighting, just doing this thing. Peter is clearly going through all of the stages of grief, and it's kind of interesting to watch him going through that throughout the movie. And Rocket, like, they're just peeling back layers of the onion. Like, why is Rocket? Like, why is he the way he is? Like,
I'll raise you one. Why is Gamora?
And then Nebula, like you start to see like people are starting to recognize really how far her arc has gone and like how far she's come.
She's like kind of the Trojan horse in this story, because we've gotten so much time with the rest of them, and it's Drax figuring out how to let go of his hate. It's Rocket trying to figure out how to trust. It's Peter figuring out how to be responsible and mature. Mantis figuring out how to be. For Nebula, it was trying to figure out how to let go of the hate and learn how to love. It's something that she had never done. I mean,
I never noticed your eyes before.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Well, it's not even necessarily a romantic love. Like,
I know.
She's never had a single
love her like herself. Yeah.
She never had a single positive relationship in her life. Her most positive relationship is with someone who whipped her entire ass on a daily basis.
Yeah.
She hates Gamora, but she still loves her because it's the only person, it's the only person she doesn't actually truly want to kill. Even like all the time that she tries to, she doesn't actually want to kill her. You realize that when she finally is like, it was never about killing you. It was about having someone to commiserate through the misery. You wouldn't even give me that.
Mm-hmm.
At least not overtly. And her figuring out how to be not a murderous psychopath. Like, that's like deeply important. Even if they don't say a lot of those things, they kind of show it right throughout this movie, which is probably more important for the most part.
And then through it all, you just have Groot, who is just, I feel like, pure, like, through the whole thing. Like, he goes through his various stages. He Benjamin Buttons his way through the series, but it's like it's awesome. And like, I mean, very as cheesy as it was, glad they gave him a line at the end. Like, I thought that was really cool. And it's just like, but he's just a very consistent character. He's just there, and he's like he protects Rocket at all costs, and then that extends to he protects the Guardians at all costs. Even if that means throwing himself on the line, which he does on many occasions. And I just like, I feel like there's something, he's like almost like a control in this group. Groot is Groot always. Like, even if they're bickering at some point, like, when he was like teenage Groot or whatever, like he's always got the whole team. He's got them all. Like and I think that's something really awesome about that character. Which is, it's so silly. It's so silly to feel anything for this tree that says I am Groot and nothing else. But you do.
Yeah.
You do.
Well, part of it is the expressiveness of his face, and part of it is they do such a great job of characterizing what he's saying. I did appreciate this new Gamora. So you guys are just like making up what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, that was great. That was great.
That was hilarious, and then the perfect punchline on all of that. Like after all was said and done, after all of the chaos, the very end. Yeah, tell them I'll be right.
Yeah, she understands it, but she doesn't realize.
Understand you. And like his little smirk. He's like, yeah, you got it.
I feel like a lot of his characterization was driven by the second movie when he was like a baby, and that just drove a lot of people like, oh, he's a cute little baby. He's learning. Do I press this button? No, you don't press this button. Do I press this button? No, you don't. That's the button you don't press.
Out of potatoes got tape.
Yeah, I honestly, it might be my favorite post-credit scene though. Is what I grew with that snarky tone.
Yeah.
Where you can't understand what the fuck he's saying, and it doesn't matter because you either have done.
Whoa!
Yeah,
your mouth.
You've either been the one doing it, or you've been on the receiving end of that tone, and you know 100%. The words don't matter; the tone says it all.
Oh, that's so true. So a lot of this movie focuses around Rocket, and
which makes sense because we've held back that story to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like even that, right? Like, what a ridiculous concept. First off, and then to flesh that out in such a way that, I mean, I was extremely emotional through that entire ordeal.
I should not care about a CGI walrus. I shouldn't.
Yeah, and all I could think about when that was over was like, man, like this is everything Tim Burton wants to be, but this reaches such a bigger audience. Like it's just complete nonsense, weird ass, creepy characters with heart, but I don't know, man. It's so much better here, and it's so much more complete. And you really like as that story is unfolding, especially Rocket in like the trend, like maybe transitioning into an afterlife moment. That particular scene of like where just the fact that it's like this anthropomorphic raccoon, and like all of that just kind of melts away. And you're just like watching this character. It's just a character, like a fully realized character, and you're just. It doesn't matter how bizarre it is, like because everything else is so strong. And it's like, how do you do that? Like, what an art form!
Obviously, it's a testament to the writing and the performing because, like, they did a good job with the CGI. I mean, like there's some scenes where you could almost look past it. Some scenes where it's like, okay, it's CGI. Whatever. Like, you're looking at CGI. And for like extended period of time. But how expressive they were with the creatures, it really comes back to the writing and the performances, and they all did a tremendous job. And you will feel something for these characters. But specifically the thing that really like got to me was when it's this close, that their dream, and you can see it tearing apart around them, and they're now in the middle of a desperate attempt to escape for their life, and the rabbit is screaming. I don't remember what she was saying. It's screaming about wanting to go as they're about to come and kill all of them. Mm-hmm. Oh my god, like that got me because it's just the innocence of these characters. Like we already have this subconscious thought towards animals, right? Like, when you watch John Wick, you care more about the dog getting killed than you do about the 50 henchmen. Mm-hmm. Or even John's wife, because it mostly happens off screen anyway, right? Like, you're already going to have that for cute little animals, and then to, like, graft onto that, like kind of the purity of these beings that are just trying to be, that are told the worst lie possible, right? Like, you have been through terrible suffering, but on the back end, you will get to have joy, right? And then to have it so coldly and callously extinguished. and to hear the panic and all of that, it's like, again, you shouldn't feel this for these fake animals that are CGI, and you still do, and that's a testament to, like I said, writing and performance there.
Yeah. What a movie. So let's talk about the big bad of the film, the High Evolutionary. And here's something interesting that I was a little bit nervous going in because, and this is what the rest of this current phase of the MCU has been stumbling with, but I feel like they nailed it with Guardians Volume 3, is I feel like they're chasing the bigger villain, right? Like, okay, we have to make this thing bigger than the last one, right?
It was always going to be a danger when Thanos is such a complex, fascinating villain. It was always going to be tough to find someone as compelling and at the same time who's able to ratchet the stakes to a point that, it matters.
Yeah, like this universal scale. And I think what they instead decided to do was they just narrowed the focus way down. Like, it doesn't have to be this big, universal issue. It could be a smaller thing that's going on that is terrible and impacting a lot of.
They did a good job of balancing both, right? Like, because the implications, the writing is such that the implications in there where this could be a terrifying thing for everyone,
right,
but it's not. This is a small story,
right? And deeply personal because it actually ties all the way back to Rocket and his origin and the way that they wove that in, that was just that was masterclass in navigating the MCU and still managing to separate this property into its own trilogy while still letting it be part of this grand timeline that is the MCU. The rest of this current phase has stumbled a lot with that, and they almost trying too hard to make it cohesive and not letting each thing have its own identity. Whereas this is no, we've got experience. We've got the Guardians have been around a bit now.
you could probably argue that this one actually might have stood alone too much. It's not to the detriment of the movie, but to the greater MCU, it might be.
I would argue against that point. This is just me thinking for the next few movies. We know Avengers Secret Wars is coming out in a few years. I think purposely they decided to separate them, which is kind of what you saw pre-Infinity War, where a lot of them were separated. And if you think to the future, Thor's still around, but you don't have Iron Man, Captain America. You don't have the strong names pulling. And so people are going to be pulling for Guardians to kind of team back up, like they wanted the Avengers to team back up.
But I don't think they will, though.
Exactly.
I mean, at the end, we saw, it says Star-Lord will return, which is different. The last two said the Guardians will return. This one said, was it the mighty Star-Lord will return or something like that? So Chris Pratt's back. Star-Lord will be back. And I suspect you could probably retain Rocket and Groot because how much work is it really for Bradley Cooper to go in a sound booth for 7 hours to do all the
I don't know. Have you ever watched him?
No.
He goes very into it.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. My point is he could fit in a day or two of audio recording. And same thing with Vin Diesel. He could record 57 versions of I Am Groot in a day. But I would suspect...
Got to do it for every language, though.
I don't think he does.
He does it for 3 or 4 languages, I believe.
Oh, 3 or 4.
Well, yeah.
I don't
understating or overstated that.
I don't suspect that Gamora will be back. We know that Drax won't be. It's too much. Dave Bautista has been trying to get out of this role. I think he enjoys it, but the toll on him. I mean, he was shirtless the whole first movie. He was wearing thick clothing this entire movie. It's not a criticism. It's just he's getting older. Mm-hmm. It's really hard for him to stay in shape to do this role. He's been saying that. He's not been hiding the fact that it's very difficult for him to continue to stay in shape.
I also can't imagine the makeup.
There's that too, but I think that's the lowest on the totem pole of that. I think it's at this point in his life, it's without steroids, it's really hard to stay that sort of physique after 50.
Sure.
I don't think he can do it anymore. I don't criticize him for that anymore. I'm going to miss him desperately. I think he
incredible character
is the straw that stirs the drink. But I totally, completely understand why he doesn't want to do it anymore. It's got to be a terrible burden physically. So he's not going to be back. And I don't think Zoe Saldana will be back. I could be wrong. But based on the way that character left off, I just don't think she'll be back.
And honestly, this is all probably for the best. Like you can still utilize some of these characters if they want to, if they're willing to return, and they want to maybe do something a little bit different with them. But like we did Guardians and we did it 3 times. Like we don't need to keep doing it. So it's probably a good thing that it takes a new shape.
Sure,
right?
That's fine. And we at the end we got an indication, right? We know Rocket's still around. He's running the new group that's around. Adam's there. He's on the chessboard for us to use going forward. Kraglin's around to whatever extent, but with James
love
Gunn. Me too. But with James Gunn gone, I don't know if Sean Gunn's still gonna stick around necessarily. I mean, it's a paycheck, but he's not gonna be.
He's gonna follow his meal ticket to the DC universe.
Oh yeah,
probably. I hated him as Weasel so much.
Oh my god.
And I'm missing. There was someone else who was part of the new Guardians.
The dog.
Well, Cosmo's easy. There's someone else too, though, wasn't there?
Did you say Mantis?
Was Mantis still part of? No, she went off on her own.
She left. Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised if she's back necessarily, but she's always. I think she's great as a supporting character to all of it. But my point is, we will have let's call it 50% of this extended character group back in some form for Secret Wars.
Oh yeah.
My original point was just that I think that making this a very a more personal and smaller story was fantastic for this movie. And don't begrudge them that. But you could argue, as for the health of the MCU itself, it's a standalone movie. It's not super helpful to what's going to come next necessarily.
Yeah, sure. Until they figure out a way to tie it in.
They will eventually. They didn't really seed anything with this specifically. Like, the characters could come over and be helpful, but they didn't seed any storylines or whatever necessarily.
It was really interesting with the first Guardians that it really was the gateway into, I feel like, understanding that cosmic universe and what Thanos will actually mean and all that. So it really was an incredible bridge movie. Felt like it did stand on its own until you realize that everything that they introduced and all of the characters that were at play were going to be like crucial points of the main storyline of that Avengers saga. That was
also the whole movie concerned an Infinity Stone. Like, we don't have the corroborating version of that for this.
Right.
Back to the High Evolutionary, though, I did actually want to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Hear what you guys think about this. I was a little skeptical in the promotional stuff. I didn't know anything about the character coming in. But I was a little bit skeptical. I was just like, I didn't know what it was going to be about. It's like, okay, this is Rocket's origin. We've purposefully probably held a lot of that back. Like, we know he's been through some rough stuff. He's more been showing us like the scars and all that, his attachment issues. I really liked how they meted out the story throughout the course of it, where we didn't just get a dump of the flashback. We got to kind of savor the pieces of it as we went along and really understand the depths of the cruelty. Because running parallel to that in the present day storylines, we get the little snippets of the High Evolutionary throughout. He's cold, he's calculating, he's brilliant, he has a plan. We don't know what it is exactly. Like, we know, okay, like, he wants to create like the perfect being or whatever. Great. Like, what is the implications for that to this story and to the world at large, whatever. But it never seems personal. Like, everything's always personal to someone. Even when, whenever it's not personal, it's just business or whatever. Well, it's not personal for you. It's personal for the person on the business end of this, right? What I found so compelling about this, because my initial, like, my preconceived fears were kind of justified in the first third of this movie or so. Because I was like, oh, like, this is kind of just he's doing his thing. He's just going to be this cold, robotic villain. The way they unveiled in the second and third act his mania and how his hubris actually held him back. It was actually kind of Succession-esque. How his hubris held back his ability to actually do what he wanted to do because he thought he was so above everything that he created. Like, he wanted
Classic
to be...
Kendall.
Yeah. He wanted to be, this god of this story, right? We've seen gods, literally, in the case of Thor and Zeus and kind of metaphorically in the case of the Celestials. Like, we got a bit of that story last edition with Ego. But what I found so interesting about him was it wasn't just that it ended up being more personal that he led on. We saw the depths of his cruelty. Like, the callousness and the coldness, I think you'd be willing to just give him. It's like, okay, he's smarter and better than everyone, great. He's got these grand designs, they fall short, he disposes of what he doesn't need. But when he tells Rocket that he's not going to be part of the Counter-Earth, the depths of the cruelty of that, not just, I mean, we already know that's where the story's heading because we've watched him incinerate test subjects that didn't work out.
Yep.
But this is the first time he lets the masks down.
Yeah.
He revels in telling him what a useless piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
I was not prepared for that. That's where this villain finally hooked me. It was about halfway through the movie or so, where it's like, oh, it's not just that you're a cold, calculating bastard. You get off on this, even though you play like you don't, and that I found.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily that it's like that cut and dry, like, because he's obviously he has a god complex, like that's his whole character, right? But what it really came down to was he kind of created Rocket, and it turns out Rocket is smarter than him, and he was pissed about that. So it was vindictive. It wasn't just that he was like, oh, it's fun to deny you this. It's like, it's more so like he's punishing Rocket because he's so mad that he is smarter than him.
Well, Rocket had a really good line at the very end where he's like, it's not like you wanted to create the perfect world. It's like you hated the world that you live in right now. And I think that kind of finds both of them, A, Rocket maturing, and then B, him, the High Evolutionary, just never being happy, never being satisfied, always pushing for more. And he couldn't even get to that more level that Rocket was already at.
Anthony, I think you're right. Also, that like there's an element of like, okay, there's an envy and a jealousy there. It takes him a while to figure out. But the thing is, he could have just killed Rocket like he was anticipating doing, and just like, oh, whatever. He really twists the knife.
Yeah, because he's pissed.
Sure.
The rest of them, he just hand waves away. It's like, kill him. It's fine. Like, he wasn't like getting off on killing the rest of them. He was just like, yeah, dispose of these. They're not. But you're gonna die. Like it's just like so. But
it's further like that's, you're right. That is an insult to his intelligence. That the thing that he created saw something he didn't see. But what causes him much more pain is realizing that not only was he outsmarted on just one little thing, but his own desire to prove to everyone else, right? It's the imposter syndrome that I guess that he's trying to get rid of, that you wouldn't possibly suppose that he has led him to actually getting it even more wrong. He's doubled down on it because by getting rid of the one thing he needed, he doesn't realize how many mistakes he's going to make along the line, and that he needs whatever innovation that he actually had within Rocket.
Yep.
And it's also, I guess it works towards his own vanity, right? Because he creates this actual literal mask to cover his scars. And it's, I don't know how to connect it exactly, but the only his whole perfect society doesn't work in any way, shape, or form because he doesn't actually learn anything from all those experiences.
Right.
And the one thing he actually learned, he discarded in his vanity.
Yeah, it's so frustrating how it makes me so mad the way he keeps starting over, just like blowing away planets that he's creating. He's like, oh, no, that didn't work. Try again.
Yeah, he made that decision so quickly.
Yeah.
Think about it. Those billions of souls. He just
so nasty.
Torched them.
Yep. It was a great performance too. Like just like very eerie.
I don't think I've seen him.
He's in Peacemaker. There's a lot of people in this that are in Peacemaker.
I still haven't actually seen that.
You could see that James Gunn has brought a lot of his characters from the DC universe into his final saga with Marvel, and there's still a lot of those characters are still alive and running in Peacemaker.
Okay.
So in Peacemaker season 2, you'll probably see him again. And if you haven't seen Peacemaker, please add it to your list.
No, I liked his Suicide Squad. I kind of forgot about that show. I did want to watch it, and I just never got to it.
I've got the IMDb page pulled up for this movie, and there's a character in the movie who I don't remember who the character was, but the character's name is Sarayami. The only reason I'm bringing this up is the way the character's name is spelled is SSSSARAIAMI.
I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't remember.
Played by Sarah Alami. It's
no way.
They just messed with her actual name.
I actually kind of like when movies.
That's very silly. I like that stuff.
Is she one of the High Evolutionaries' assistants?
I don't know. That's the one thing I don't love about. It gives me the actor and their name, but it doesn't give me any details on who the character is. Maybe it's because it's no, that's weird. I can click on the character name, still nothing.
Interesting.
But anyway, I thought that was silly. Will Poulter is his Adam Warlock character. I kind of love this concept of he's this crazy, strong, ridiculous character, but it's he was not finished baking. I love that. That it was it's just such a silly little thing they did, but he's just kind of dumb, and it's great. But he's too powerful, and when he incinerates that one guy, we gotta interrogate him. He just incinerates the person. We can't get the answers from him if he's boiled. What?
Wait, what did she say? Prove a point or something like that, or and he
just incinerates him.
Oh my god! Then
he gets
so
the
ridiculous.
little animal. I forgot the animal's name.
Oh yeah, the pet. He takes the pet from him. That's right.
I know that little pet actually made it into the Guardians at the very end.
Yeah, I think he was with them in the.
That's awesome.
The final bit. This was an interesting take on Adam, comparing him to the Guardians game Adam. They both have the same superiority complex. That Adam was a little bit more well-baked, I guess, because he's further on in his life.
It's half-baked.
What was interesting about that character was he would speak in, it wasn't limericks, but it was in metered verse, where he would have it wasn't I don't think it was iambic pentameter, but he would speak in this particular cadence that often ended in a rhyme. And a lot of it was or it would have consonants or dissonance. He was basically spoke poetically. It was obnoxious, and they started making fun of it subtly in the game. This one obviously was not doing that, but it was funny because he was basically a teenager. He's a moron, and some of the petty and childish shit that he's trying to do within it makes for a source of decent comedy and also some interesting plot stuff. Boiling the person alive or whatever would seem to be holding back with the investigation they're trying to do. He's out to prove himself, and it's interesting to see his reaction to his quote unquote mother dying. It ends up being it does feel like he's sidelined from the main plot for too much of the movie. Mm-hmm. I think they did a good job of dovetailing him back in.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I feel like they teased him at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
And they never really closed that loop, but they maybe they were able to use him, but maybe
not the first movie, the second movie.
Was it the second one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one. But they teased it, and then so much time had passed, and it's it almost seems like maybe they didn't quite know what they wanted to do with the character, but felt like they needed to close the loop. So if you remove the character entirely, not much changes with the rest of the movie. So it's kind of throwaway, but I don't think that's no fault of the performance. It's just obviously it's the writing was not fleshed out for it, but
I guess you could make an argument if you're talking about where this is going to fit in with the greater MCU. Maybe it's just introducing him.
Yeah, and he'll probably play a bigger role later for sure.
I would counter argument this: if he never tried to go get Rocket in the beginning, then Rocket would never have
But that's just a plot device.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
It's not like
a
full character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. But all in all, fun. I loved when they go to the first off when they're on that planet. They're going to the high evolutionary. They're trying to communicate with the locals, and it's not going very well in the beginning. That was that little slapstick, but I kind of love that type of thing. Your callback to the couch sequence,
Oh my
just
gosh.
perfect. Dax, like just it's Drax, like perfect, just exactly what I want from that character. Like keeps trying to lay on the couch.
Him doing this slow motion where Quill's just like, I can see you. Stop laying down on the couch.
That was so
that entire
good.
banter sequence. I was dying. It was probably one of the funniest sequences I've seen in the Guardians trilogy. It was great.
I love it. I love it so much. And then
get your boots off for pillows. He's like, it was made for this. It was made for 3 people to sit next to each other, shoulder to shoulder. I'm just saying it's oblong in shape. It could have multiple purposes.
I find it hard to believe that it doesn't have more than one purpose. And then I just love that during all of this, this bickering, Nebula cracks open the soda and drinks it, and she's like kind of smiles for the first time in these entire series. Yes. Oh man, that was great. And then getting into the car, just what a wonderful first F-bomb in the MCU.
Yes, yes. That's the only one, right?
Door.
I also loved.
You don't just pull. You got to push the button. Don't just pull. No, don't pull. You have to push the button, then pull. Pushing the button, yes. Now open the fucking door.
I was truly not prepared for that, and I really appreciated that. I also really enjoyed going back to the idea of like Drax and Mantis having like the classic CC and Winston mess around energy. When Drax clotheslines the guy on the motorcycle,
it's wonderful.
And then gets on the motorcycle, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, we're just nothing. Just get on." Why? Just get on. Where are we going? We're just going to go to the ship, and the ship's literally right there in the background. We could just walk over there. No, it's fine. We'll just drive over there. And she still gets on for some stupid reason. Then he immediately drive the other direction.
And then, which leads to the wonderful miscommunication for like the rest of that act of like everybody thinks everybody is somewhere else. It's just like it's almost too much. But I kind of love it. Peter's stuck on the ship. Peter's not stuck on the ship. He thinks they're back in the base. No, but they're stuck on the ship. It's like who's on first.
Yeah, and also, how are we supposed to know that you got off the ship? Because this is my thing. I barely get out alive by figuring something stupid out that works. Oh, that's the plan? Is you're going to figure out something stupid that works? Yeah, it always works.
Oh, man. Using that guy as a body shield was...
You'll kill us both. No, just one of us.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I love when they first got to that planet where Drax just kicks the ball right at the kid, right as they're trying to be peaceful, and then that poor lady, she drags him into her house trying to help how to be helpful, and the husband's like, "Oh, not again!" Like this happens all the time.
Right.
I also liked that. I thought that was a fair bit of like kind of subtle storytelling. Where it's like, this is the perfect society. They show us in flashback we're using this formula. They won't have the ability to like hate or whatever, and they make a small mistake, and all of them start attacking. We don't get any commentary, no leading questions, no nothing. We see them drug dealing, whatever, and it's like, oh wow, he is that much of a complete failure. It's before we see the cracks in him, where he's really letting on how much that it's wearing on him, that this experiment isn't working, and how he needs to give in and get Rocket. That's why he's been hunting him this whole time, is because he has made barely to himself the admission that he needs to fix this, and that's the only way to do it. It's something he won't give to his underlings because that would shatter the illusion.
You know, one flaw I have for the writing of that character, and it could be something that maybe got cut, but just a little bit of an explanation of his powers, like his like anti-gravity or gravity, like whatever it was that he was able to manipulate. Like it was unclear. I don't like when I have no concept of what the rules are to the powers. Slash, like, I don't know. You get Loki, right, and then there's, he's the god of mischief. He has all these weird, and like it's passable. Like the things that he can do, it works with what we've established about the character, and then the things that don't quite make sense are written in as being like powers that he's able to wield with the staff specifically. Like, okay, cool, got it. Like, I understand the concept. I understand if a new thing comes up, it's either something a Loki can do or like that he's getting out of the staff. Great. This guy, like, just, you're up in the air, you're on the ground. What was it? Like, what was he doing? What was happening? That's like some sort of tool that he built, but it didn't really seem like there was any sort of gauntlet or thing in play. Like, is it telekinesis? If so, what's the explanation as to why he has this kind of power? Like, I don't know. Like, even Mantis, right? Mantis is an empath, but like, she was created by Ego to be a certain way. We got that explanation. It doesn't like, it didn't just happen. Like, here's an explanation of why you're able to do this thing. I didn't understand what those like weapons that he basically had were.
My headcanon is that there's dozens, if not more, of these people in the vast space that MCU occupies, right? Like, Ego is another one of them, right? And just to keep on coming across these people, it's just, a part of the MCU and the Marvel universe. It's just, he's not the only one. And if you think about it, this entire movie takes place within a very few planets, whereas a lot of the other stuff takes place along like very different planets, right? Like Thor's on his own world, the early Avengers movies are on their own play. Like, you think about it, Earth is so vast, there's so much going on, That's my headcanon.
Sure,
I agree with you. It is a writing flaw.
That's fair. The only thing, like, with like somebody like Ego, again, like, that is he's a celestial. Okay, what does that mean? We get a little bit of a hint of what that means and why, and like then you kind of hand wave some of the things that he does. I don't know anything more really about this character. Like, extremely intelligent and a god complex, that stuff was written and I understood and it made sense. But yeah, like, just like what are all these things? What are the rules?
So I had a thought at some point in the movie that, because the first time you see him use those powers, it's on Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
So I wondered if it was something that was just that he had designed that was tied to Rocket's physiology, created him, but then he uses it on
almost like a restraining bolt of sorts
Groot later. So like that kind of threw that theory out the window. Mm-hmm. I was confused about it too. I thought about it some, and so I wonder if it was just meant to be, did he develop some implant that he put in himself where it's like, okay, the peak of evolution for an organic like being would be to develop a telekinesis, basically.
Maybe.
And this is just the highest form of that, because other than that, he's not super physically imposing. This isn't a Thanos who is, and Thanos isn't even because of like any sort of magic. He's just physically strong in the same way that, and not more than physically, like his actual like constitution and fortitude is of a much higher caliber than your average mortal. Same thing in Guardians 1. Ronan is such a powerful force of being, not inherently magical, at least like in the way of like doing magic, right? But like, he is not made of the stuff of mere mortals, right? That doesn't really seem to be, from a physical standpoint, the case with the High Evolutionary, because once they get past that point of powers, like, they really whip his ass pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's just his thing is his intellect, and he has developed something that allows him to manipulate, the world around him in a useful but ultimately kind of trivial way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like, he's not really super powerful. It's just he has something a bit more than everyone else in a way that's useful to him, but isn't really special, which is why ultimately they're able to blow right by that when the time comes.
Yeah. Okay. I have one final note. A joke I made. I whispered to myself when it happened, chuckled, and then moved on while I was watching the movie. And that's when those creatures on the ship were like they were from the second movie, from the beginning of the second movie. As soon as they arrived, I went Harbulary batteries, and
Yes.
it's just like I love that. I love that scene. I know we're talking that's the second movie. I love that scene so much. That's not what I said. They're called Harbulary batteries.
No, they're not. Yeah, I mean, having the Sovereign as part of it made sense. It was nice to see that storyline tied off, and kind of like why it matters in the grand scheme of things. Beyond that, though, I mean, obviously this is so much informed by the stories that came before it, but in a lot of ways it's its own thing. I mean, they go that whole like facility with the, we got kind of like a caper sort of thing, and then it got really dark where it was like, oh shit! Like we saw from the trailer, there was Quill crying over someone on a medical table, and you suspect it's Rocket, but you can make an argument it could have been Drax, or technically could have been anyone, but really you're probably narrowed down to those two. And when Nathan Fillion starts shooting the shit out of Drax, I was like, oh fuck, maybe it's gonna be him. Like, the whole Rocket thing's a fake out, he's gonna be okay, and we know that Dave Bautista wants out of this, like, is it Drax? And then Mantis gets shot. I was like, oh, is it Mantis? And then Nebula's aspirating blood into her lungs. It's like, oh my god, this is super dark here.
The end of the Guardians.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is only like halfway through. Like, this could get ugly real quick. But I like that whole story.
They all get killed, and it immediately cuts to black, and it says, the Guardians will not return.
Oh, I liked that we can only really appreciate the light of this movie when we get the darkest of darks, which is like that sequence really highlights that. But I liked that was kind of its own storyline thing. Like, it was in service of the plot, and there's some important character moments and all that, but we get to just have that thing stand alone, like whether it be for the movie or for the galaxy, like that facility. We never heard anything about it. We never knew anything about it. And they have this whole world that they created within it that allowed us to do all of this stuff. And it was kind of a new sandbox to play in there. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that. Plus, it gave us some hijinks, like Mantis accidentally ejecting their suits out into outer space. And just whatever the fuck the security was wearing, because those outfits were...
Oh my god, yeah, the giant giant organic outfits. And his whole thing of like constantly talking shit about his like recruit.
Yeah, I got one of those too.
Yeah.
I felt so relatable. When he's like, I got one of those too. Everybody felt that. Everybody's ever worked anywhere. Like, I have felt that right there. One thing I wanted to quickly... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
I wanted to quickly talk about Nebula and Rocket. Just because I feel like the relationship in this one was a lot more stronger. And when I dug into it a little bit more, I realized that, like, yeah, it does stand alone with the three movies, but without, like, Infinity War and Endgame, you don't realize that, like, they were just them two as the Guardians for 5 years.
Well, it even started with two, right? Because, like, technically Rocket was, like, guarding her, and then she breaks out, and she, like, betrays him, and then, yeah, like, that's like kind of the last time they interact before the end of 2, whereas like anyone can put bygones apart for 2 seconds while they're trying to escape a cataclysmic event.
Yeah.
And then, you spend 5 years where the world's ended and the two of you have to work in close proximity. Like, it changes you and your perspectives, right?
Yeah.
It is an interesting relationship.
I 100% agree. Like, I didn't realize it because I was watching it. It was like when... You just hear Nebula like, how's Rocket? She's like super worried and they're nowhere close. They're like, Drax, you're supposed to be on the ship. Why are you not on the ship? And I don't know, I related to it a lot. It was pretty cool.
And especially the scene where Quill tells them that he's okay and she breaks and she's crying while they're in that prison holding cell on the bottom of the ship.
So it's so awesome that they like let all of that happen. Like, it's kind of off to the side, but it's like very important. And because it's like, she definitely can relate, to what you were saying. Like they were together for a very long time, just the two of them, but like also they were both ripped apart and put back together over and over again. Like that concept, right? Like they are the only two people that do know what the other one has gone through, right? Like Nebula is so far removed from being whatever being that she was because she's been like replaced. Like at what point, like what it's ship of Theseus, right? Like is she still a person? Like she's been replaced with so many augmented pieces of technology. Like what's left?
It's your eyes.
Yeah.
My father plucked them out, but he chose really, really pretty ones.
Yeah. No, she's like very, very much Roy Kented in that scene.
Yes,
she's like, no.
Yes.
Oh man.
I liked her upgrade to her arm. Like we didn't really have to talk about it too much, but it was nice. Well, two things. One, it was obviously useful, but two, it is kind of taking the power back, right? Where like he was like, "Oh, you didn't see that she was gonna like feint right and then stab left. Okay, I'll just yank your eyes out and give you better ones." And it's like everything was thinly veiled with we're making you a better version of Nebula, but really it was about torturing her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first thing that she got to really choose to do, and she gives herself a badass fucking arm that can like hack and attack and all that sort of shit. Like I appreciated like what that says about her is like, okay, like she could see the utility in making these changes, but doing it for the right reasons matters.
It reminded me of the Terminator 2 arm.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to the T-1000 or whatever.
For sure. Any other thoughts? Closing thoughts on this one?
I know we talked about it a bit before, like just kind of like watching the new versions of this relationship and everything. But I one of the things that really stuck out to me was I think you were mentioning like how much like Peter and Rocket like were at each other's throat and all of how much they fought in the other movies. Especially I view it really in 2, that line where Peter gives him, he's like, if you're trying to get everyone to hate you, you're doing a pretty good job of it, and like that's how they sign off and they don't talk again until the end of the movie. But after Rocket gets, blown up and he's on the bed, I forget at what point Quill says it, but he's like, my best friend's dying.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've seen them have this love-hate relationship, but, one wonders if anyone other than Groot can be friends with Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does say at the end of 2, it's probably one of the most affecting scenes to me in 2 when he leaves Quill and Yondu behind and Gamora gets back onto the ship. Drax had already barely saved Mantis, and Nebula and Gamora are on there, and Rocket tases her and says, I already lost enough friends today. I'm not losing you too. And it's followed up by Drax screaming, where's Quill? Another thing you just wouldn't expect from that character, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That moment really distills down so many of those things, and it's like he says, "I've already lost enough friends today." Like and then to when the last time they spoke, he's basically like, "Why are you such a piece of shit?" And now to get to this point where Quill, like, he's not performing for anyone. My best friend. They had 5 years robbed from them, where Rocket and Nebula exist and the rest of them don't exist because of the snap. And to hear Quill say that, I don't know, just that evolution I've really found powerful. Like how they talk about all that stuff where we didn't always see it because they kind of love to hate each other. But to know that when the chips are down, that this is what really matters to all of them.
Yeah.
Is so important.
The family they chose.
Yeah.
Another really cool, important scene was when it was just Drax, Mantis, and Nebula, and they just like getting through those doors. They're getting up into space and need the oxygen. And after the dust settles, they realize there's a bunch of kids in there. You save them. The 3 of them just were phenomenal in that little arc where Nebula's just cursing out Drax. She's like, "You're just stupid." Mantis is defending him. And then out of nowhere, Draxter starts speaking whatever the language with these little kids.
doing his little dance and all like that.
That was great.
Yeah. It's like, you didn't ask. But I loved how Mantis defended him as much as they hate, and hate's not probably a strong word, but just like bag on
They
each other
bicker
all
like
the time.
siblings.
It's really clear there.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and I really appreciated the final. I mean, I remember when the song started, I was like, "Is this?" Because I hadn't heard the song in a long time, and I was like, I really loved closing the whole sequence out with the Florence and the Machine song. That's one of those ones that's really like perfect for like plot and theme. Like the dog days are over, and them all dancing. And when you consider it's one of Drax's best lines and one of Dave Bautista's best line deliveries from the second one, where he's telling Quill why it's never going to work between Quill and Gamora. He says, "There are people in this galaxy that dance, and there's those that don't dance. My wife, the most pleasing melody could be playing. She wouldn't move a muscle. She wouldn't even tap a toe." He's like, so what? He's just like the way, like what did he say? Like the way, like my nether region's engorged or something like that. And Quill's like, "Oh my god, it's disgusting." And then to see him start dancing to the song, like after it looks like he's just gonna sit there like stock still. I don't know, like that. I just thought that was such like a sweet moment. Is like they're all dancing, they're having a good time, or whatever. And to see him finally crack and do that, it's like
so
that's
good.
The last image you're gonna get of him in this storyline. I don't know. I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's touching. Very cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and that is all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthe6@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Biolsi.
And I'm Nelson Singh.
Thanks for coming out.